All right, so we're going to begin.
Maybe we'll take a break.
We're going to call the meeting to order at about 7:38. I need to notify everyone that we are on tape on WinCam, and it is being publicized through their services. Today, we are going to first, we have a few comments that we're going to go through. Then we'll go through the Abbey Road Highland Avenue subdivision, petition number 3874 for 2 Nashua Drive. The fiscal year 20 budget will be discussed this evening. We'll be discussing our hearing procedures, Springtown meeting articles, and open action items, and approve any outstanding minutes we have, and then hopefully we will adjourn by 10 o'clock. Also, just so everyone notes, tomorrow we will be meeting with the master plan, tomorrow evening, the master plan subcommittee, and
At 7 o'clock.
at 7 o'clock. I will be late to that because I have a LPA meeting, so, just so you know. Okay, and Brian, do you want to give any updates on anything?
No, I was just going to go straight into Highland Ave.
All right, let's do it. So how I anticipate running Highland Ave is we're going to let Brian speak, ask the engineering for any of their feedback, have the applicant come forward, go through that checklist of how they met all those requirements, ask them to leave the table, and then the board will discuss thereafter.
And just to clarify, we have closed public comment.
Yes, we have closed public comments at this point.
With all due respect, but we're not there anymore.
But if you have any comments, you're always welcome to email, and we do read all of our emails.
We do.
So go ahead, Brian.
Okay, so from the last meeting, a checklist was created that incorporated design review, potential homeowners association agreement conditions, ones from the planning board that were still not tied up, and the few engineering comments at the time. So these were all put in. This checklist was given to the applicant, and the applicant went through the entire checklist. As far as staff is concerned, this checklist is finished, and that's the main thing that the applicant will be going through as when it's his turn. So since this checklist, we're reviewing plans dated December 20th. December 20th were plans that were after the last meeting that we had that incorporated many of the comments, all of the comments that are associated here, and if it's not, it's within the housing, the homeowners association, or it's actually already in the development agreement. So there are 3 general documents that are governing this subdivision. The development agreement with the town that's already been signed with the select board, and then that's also part of town meeting. So town meeting also authorized the development agreement. The other is the HOA, which has now, there's a copy that you had that incorporates everything as of this morning from legal counsel. So that's a fully done document that has been, all comments from the planning board have been incorporated into that. It's this one called Declaration of Covenants. That's the HOA. So that both the applicant's attorneys and our attorneys came to this agreement. So that happened finally this morning. And then from that, what I developed that's not located within the HOA and not located in the development agreement were a list of conditions that we would need in order to endorse the site plan after the appeal period. So that is a 1-page front and back that you have right now. It's a list of 9 conditions. These conditions were based upon planning and engineering's comments. So we each made our own comments, and then I put them, I organized them in so there wasn't any redundancy. So these are the 9 conditions in addition to the HOA and the development agreement that should govern the rest of this project. So that is all I have.
Want to just,
Sure.
without reading it aloud, which would take 20 minutes probably, or 10 anyway. Can you just, the 9 points, is there some way without making, I don't want to take more than,
Sure, I can go through it relatively quickly.
like if you're putting little titles on
No,
each one.
I can do it.
This one does.
So the first one is, it's essentially there's a development agreement here that needs to be adhered to. It's attached at the end of this decision. The second one is saying that it has to use the plan set dated 12/20. If there's any changes to the materials or specifications from any of the plans submitted, the engineering or the planning, this is our standard stock language of basically saying if there's any changes that are deemed significant, then we would bring this back to the board for some type of, but most likely this would be a engineering and planning decision if there was anything different from the plan submitted from 12/20 or located within this document itself. A copy of this decision as well as the HOA has to be recorded at the time of,
That's right.
before any CO is awarded. Some type of agreement for a performance guarantee. This is more other stock language saying that anything this is happening when the road is actually being constructed, that a
Right.
punch list will be created and a bond will be put up after the time, first the lots get put up in escrow before the road gets created. Again, this is all standard how we go about subdivision rules and regs.
Fast.
The temporary easements, so on the adjacent town-owned land, there are some temporary construction easements allowed. This basically just says that the select board governs that. That is their deal, and they have to reach an agreement with the select board when it comes to doing any type of temporary or permanent easements on town-owned land. The sixth, this has to, again, with any type of street opening permit, they'd have to go through the DPW, and talking about the connection of the utilities. This is saying that they have to submit a revised set of plans prior to the 21-day appeal period when we would endorse it. So after this decision, or after a decision, there would be the 21-day appeal period, and after that point, we endorse the plan, basically
Good.
saying that we have
That's
not
pretty
received
cool.
anything. So saying at that time, that
Yep.
it has to incorporate all of these conditions into that set.
Oh, I love number 8. Go for it. Yeah.
Right, so these are having to do as-built plans, using a professional engineer
Mhm.
registered by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to basically sign off on all the work. Again, this is again standard stock language for subdivision,
Except for the
subdivisions.
record, years ago, that's why we
Ex-
have some of them.
yeah.
And that's what we've got. Go ahead, I'm sorry. But it's
That
just-
we now have, yes.
we do have to collectively go back
Exactly.
to those.
I'm almost done.
Okay,
This is the
yeah,
last
I had a
one. So
question.
this
Finish
one,
up.
the last one is having to do mostly with the drainage. So this has to do if there's a change to the rooftop drainage necessary, if there's a change to the detention basins, due to for instance, if there's going to be a larger than anticipated, so they designed the Coltex, they designed the drainage system based upon certain square footages of roof drainage. And if those get changed, we want to make sure that if there's any change, that the roof runoff is being taken care of.
And not to get ahead of Heather, but hang on to your thought, Heather, if you don't mind. What about those, I remember one recommendation was making sure the rear setbacks are adhered to when.
That's in the development agreement, talking that they have to apply for it, which is the only thing that they can do. We can't force a zoning, right, but it is a condition that they've actually already agreed to that by signing the development agreement.
Thank you, Heather, I'm sorry.
No, you can keep going, I'll go to all my points.
I'm
in a
done,
minute.
that's number 9. That's it
Okay,
for the moment.
Number 8, the question is, to make sure that it's clear that it is not the applicant, that it is an independent engineer? Is that the intention?
That is the intent, well, it would be a
Someone
question
independent.
for our engineer, but yes, I would imagine it would
Okay,
be
we'll
someone
talk to Beth about
not
that.
already employed with the applicant, is this?
Yeah.
It should follow the subdivision regs. I don't,
That's not necessarily true. I mean, if the applicant, you can use the engineer that was the engineer of record for the development.
Right.
It doesn't have to be somebody different than the person who designed the plan.
Yeah, that was, she was asking, so.
Basically saying at the end of the day that they've watched the construction and they've certified that it's built in accordance with the plans that were approved. It doesn't necessarily have to be somebody
no.
completely independent. It can be the engineer of record on the
Exactly.
application.
Yeah,
As long as we've
does
got the
somebody
professional
know?
In this case,
engineers
happens to
involved.
be the applicant, but.
Between you and Brian, just somebody answer, is this what stated in, and it sounds okay, but is this addressed in our subdivision regs?
It doesn't say that it has to be an independent review.
Right.
So no is the short answer.
Thank you.
It doesn't need to be.
It does not, well, it doesn't need to be an independent
Right. That's all.
entity.
Thank you.
Typically, it's the engineer of record for the project.
Right, right,
The
and it's a
engineer who-
PE, which there's certain.
Exactly, as long as they got the PE,
So-
I'm all set.
Since I'm done, why don't we just ask Beth to, I mean, I don't know if you have any additional comments, I mean, everything, but now that I'm done, I think we can move on to,
Number 2, a review by the engineering department and planning department.
yes.
It would also need approval by the planning department and planning board
If there are changes.
if there are changes. So
Well, that's
additional
what we were saying.
conditions may be
Yeah.
placed, but it doesn't mean that if they're changing materials or specs.
We have to, the way this is written is that we make a determination if the change is significant.
Right, that's right.
And then if the change is significant, we put it back to the board.
So I'll say this, having been through, like, our waiving our CBD subcommittee review, whatever, I mean, we don't, I think we live with what's in writing here, but we've got to, hey, guys, comes back here.
Yes, so that's what
Your point, and I'm
my
with
point
you
is
there.
I would like to see if there are any changes to the materials or specs from any of the plans submitted in the set, a review by the planning board,
Okay?
if that, with input
Yeah, you
from
don't need
both.
to ask for.
No,
Yeah.
I'm saying that, and
So-
review and approval
agree.
by the planning board.
Kind
If-
of changing the order, like the planning board for those departments.
Well, those departments
really it's
would
just-
provide
Review, right,
feedback
it's,
to us, but
they're-
it's still,
So
It's sort of part and parcel.
if, for example, there's a change to the drainage calculations.
No.
Find it to be okay, do you want that to come to you as a significantly different change, or is that the type of thing that we would sign off as?
I have to say, I'm starting to wonder, as this overflow, or whatever you call that, goes over Highland Avenue, and we're putting a little berm up on Highland on the other side, I'm getting a little
Yeah,
worried,
That
so.
could be problematic potentially.
So
Well,
maybe,
it currently overflows onto Highland Ave.
right, no, I understand.
Right, right. So as long as the condition is not made any worse than it
Yeah.
already is.
Yeah, because we're
and
doing
hopefully improved.
25-year rather than 100-year.
my concern is we can't pinpoint what each thing would be, and,
That's why we're here.
That's-
Exactly, agree.
well, the level of things, but in the CBD, we've had where there's been disagreement, and so
Sure.
the question is, how do we define what that
I don't think
is
we
in
can.
this? And so that's why it just comes, if it's something simple and says, if it's something like that, it just comes to our table, we say yes, and then we move on. But it's also good for us to be notified of it too. at the
So,
same
okay, I can take out the significance and just say that you get notified and,
review.
Actually, that's right. Review, I mean, we'll all discuss whether it comes back, but I think, right, forget significant. If such changes were deemed significant, yeah.
I just think anything should come, we should be notified of any
Yeah.
changes. And the best way is just take 5 minutes out of our agenda and notify us. And you approve it and move on.
At which point the question would come, is any of this significant? Are there
Yeah.
significant changes to what we've already
Or review if
approved?
it's significant and if not.
okay.
Okay. And then I guess my next question, my final question actually leads into Beth. So anyone have any questions for Brian before on this document?
I'm good.
Okay. So my question regarding this document, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, everyone, this is, when I introduce
Beth
yourself.
Rudolph,
I'll
Town
introduce
engineer.
yourself. The random Beth I'm talking to in the crowd. So in this, there is some comments about some issues with the plans that are pretty minor, but they are things that need to be picked up prior to our approval. They're not in this list. For
Well, it
like-
references our comment letter of January 4th, which has
Which we
those
got.
remaining comments.
Here.
I think it's,
Okay.
Just-
Other comments that were by the engineering department over time have actually been just referencing specific requirements already in the subdivision, so that's why the condition is simply that everything has to be adhered to. So that's why this is a little bit different, because over time, there's less and less conditions have been needed to be put on the permit because they've been making changes throughout the time of the permit.
Instead of it saying, so I guess when I read this, it's not like clearly laid out, like do this, do that.
scroll down, Ben.
It's like addressing.
keep going, I think it's further down. So it's number 7. Prior to endorsement of the definitive plans, the applicant shall submit a revised set of plans acceptable to town planner and town engineer, reflecting the conditions stated herein and addressing the comments provided in our memo of
Yep.
January 4th.
And you-
that-
Okay.
I think
I
that,
just don't like
Got it.
addressing the comments.
So they're all, everything will be located within the decision. It's
Yeah.
not like it's gonna be an attachment. It's all, like, the decision will have all of these
It will be-
documents
it will be
within them.
complete.
No, I understand. I got that whole part. What I'm saying is I do not like the way it says addressing the comments. So just say,
Do it.
do it.
Yeah.
Just do the 4 things, and addressing the comments is like
Satisfying,
responding to it, or
yeah,
they're addressing it.
Satisfying the.
Satisfying.
that's
it.
fine,
Right.
okay.
Yeah, that's all I'm referencing. Okay, just so it's clear. As I know
Yeah, that actually works.
Okay.
okay,
I just wanted to mention that the first condition is about the A&R that needs to be signed for this project. So there's a plan that the town had created, a surveyor created, because technically until the A&R is created, the lots that the
chicken and egg
subdivision
here.
is using don't exist. So that plan needs to be endorsed by this board, I would think, probably before the 21-day appeal period expires,
Yeah,
maybe.
there's time,
Yeah.
one other meeting in January that we can do
Yeah,
that.
it makes sense to maybe record that all together, so, yeah. So again, we just had some minor comments after the last hearing, there was kind of a lot of changes that were made to the plans all at once, and so we just asked for one complete set for us to do our final review, and in reviewing that, there were a few things that we noticed that were not in compliance with the subdivision regs, or just sort of minor things. And those were addressed in our January 4th memo. So I think we are fine with the applicant making those changes between now and then, and I would recommend that they give us another paper copy before we go to Mylar to make sure that we're all on board, and then
Yep.
we can have the Mylars ready to be signed after the appeal period.
This list of conditions also included the comments from today from the rest of the engineering department.
Okay,
So,
yeah, I haven't
I did,
reviewed
yeah,
yet.
you
Okay,
haven't.
thank you. So I didn't have anything else unless you all had questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. The approval of subdivision plan, approval not required.
So Brian, just to be clear.
Yeah.
You, for this checklist, were you implying that you and Beth went through each of these and checked it off?
Correct.
Because when I got this blank, I thought it hadn't been done yet.
You're not the first person to say that. I mean, yeah, so, I can go through this checklist, or you can.
No, I was just
yeah.
making sure that you did, that someone
right.
was actually
Yes.
checking.
Just asking a question, if the answer is yes.
See,
So Beth just asked, so she asked for you actually want the paper copy?
Even if it's a PDF.
A PDF is fine, okay.
We get a final Mylar and we say like, oh, you didn't address this we just wanna make sure there's one final check before you have to produce Mylar copies for you to sign.
So can you add in a number 7, shall submit a complete revised set of plans? So that just is, it's all of them, and it's not piecemealed in,
well, that's what
a revised set. So
A
it could
revised
be,
set.
you could just submit one sheet, just a complete revised set. So I just wanna make sure our expectations are there, and
Before we
there's,
sign off on it.
we don't go back and forth. Okay. All right, so are we ready to move on? Okay, so I'm gonna invite the applicant to come forward. We have the checklist and go through it, and want to present the items. As we did a bunch of these already, and just go back through it on the plans.
This is the Excel and then the plan sets in the PDF. Okay, thanks.
Since we've gone through a lot of this, what are you asking the applicant to address? So I don't think we need a huge amount of input.
That's what I was saying,
That's
is
what I
Well,
was asking
I was like,
Brian
I
if he
could-
did this already. 'cause
Yeah.
He said he did this
You can,
already.
I mean, if the point was to actually show it on the plans, or have a quick, discussion about it, I don't know if that was the goal.
I think you're capable of going through it pretty fast, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know this inside and
I
out.
was thinking the same thing. If Brian's already reviewed it and said he's good with it, I'm happy to do it, but it's,
Well,
Well, it gives us an opportunity, if you have a question for him on the item, he's right here, ask him.
Or
as we
maybe
go through it.
should we
I just wanna
move
make
to
it-
questions?
you wanna
if you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing, so we can just go through this super quick. So if we go here, starting with the sorry, if you can go up. Design review, so they were saying the trees could be
Bless you.
preserved to be shown on the clearing and grubbing plan. That was actually on the previous plan. That one was already closed out.
Right.
House locations according to C3 should be used to apply for zoning relief. Part of the development agreement,
Right.
didn't matter anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Proposed tree should be closer to Highland Ave to
It's
create,
just a little spelling thing there.
yeah,
Okay, that's it.
I agree. Define the tree canopy, so the tree that was,
Yeah.
that they're using, it was a red maple, now it's a red maple that's a specific variant that has a much fuller
Oh,
tree
good.
canopy.
Excellent, thank you.
October Glory, in case you're wondering.
No, but you
Yeah.
should, it really would be, as an aside, helpful to start back in the ranch downstairs, listings. The larger canopies are really
No,
important.
there is a list of approved street trees
Good.
through DPW that we're
Onward.
going to probably
Glad to
be
hear it.
adding
Well, it's
to.
good for the board to know that. Thank you.
The evergreen in rear
Yeah.
yards, I think, again, that was another one that was already talked about. The lighting plan, again, that was another one that was already talked about, and the lighting plan is located in there. The HOA conditions, these have all been met through legal. And engineering, this is, already either, it's already actually, based upon the engineering comment letters, as well as the condition that we just set forth just now.
Mhm. Good.
So the applicant went through the entire checklist that was created, the one that was circulated to the board, and the additional conditions. We just went through the 9 conditions that were in addition to the original checklist.
So, Maureen, you were very worried about the tree species. Have you reviewed those and they're all to your liking, all of
Oh,
them?
I am at this point assuming that if it's if it got subbed out for, I'll just take it on, I don't know every variety of
Yeah.
tree, so
If-
that's why at this
Yeah,
point I
if
have
you.
to.
Oh, the red maple
If you look
does.
up red maple or October Glory, it's definitely very different from the traditional red maple, which is basically
Yeah,
like this.
familiar, we
And
had
the
some
October Glory, it's a complete
wider
tree canopy,
yeah, which
so-
is
and
really-
they can be 40 feet,
That's
of it, yeah.
definitely appropriate to the
Yeah.
Highland Avenue scale. yeah.
And the location? Can you
Which,
pull up
by the way, as people are, I know
Yeah,
our
pull up the
traffic
location.
people are interested in traffic, those large trees, which will
They
take a
do
few
slow
years,
down.
but they do slow down traffic, so I'm happy to hear
I
about
thought
that.
also for the evergreens in the backyards that we wanted them to be varied.
Varied,
Is
varied.
that something that happened? Not just that they exist, but that they're not just arborvitae in a row?
Yeah, we do have a variety back there. All along here, we've got a variety of different species here and a different species here. And then the trees that were relocated from Lot 1, they used to be here,
Yeah.
and they're now right here.
Yeah.
So that's as per the direction at the last meeting.
Right, right.
Did you want to know what those species are? Are you okay?
No,
I can't
just
we
wanted to
can't read them
clarify
on
what
our
that
set. That's,
checklist item was.
okay. Okay. All right. I
Um,
guess then,
Right, so, so just to kind of recap and clear out, the HOA has been approved by legal counsel as of today. We referenced the HOA in our condition, in the 9 conditions. We've just edited the 2 of the 9 conditions to this evening with a few words. I believe that if a motion would be entertained, it would just need to incorporate the 9 conditions that were talked about this evening.
okay. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Miller before? All right, thank you
Oh, I
very
have
much.
one- I have
Oh,
one question.
go ahead.
We had talked about, it might be in the HOA, and I didn't notice it, but we had talked about like how to make sure that homeowners know they can't build on top of the easement for the drainage.
So part of, I mean, within the HOA agreement, it shows, and that's why we have meets and bounds for all of the permanent and temporary easements. That's one of the requirements for the subdivision rules and regs, and that gets recorded with your deed.
Okay.
So if, it's shame on them kind of thing.
And with the HOA, it's written in that agreement. Thank you.
So
Thank you for your help.
somebody's going to entertain a motion, but
Yep.
I can't, it's too complicated for me, so maybe Brian could just,
Brian,
would
could
the
you-
board entertain a motion and then give the language so Liz can back it up? 'cause
So I added to and gave you have your own, terms of
Got
votes
it.
and
Thank you.
motions.
Oh, good, perfect.
So, and then, so we go to the way back
Oh, good.
for subdivision.
Way back.
So the motions that can be entertained for subdivision review is approval, approval with conditions, or disapproval. So we would say that the decision would be that a motion to approve the plan with the specified modifications and/or stated conditions
Give me
listed in 1 through 9 attached.
Page 6.
So it's page 6, 6.71B, that's the motion. Approve the plan with the specified modifications and/or stated conditions listed in the 9 conditions talked about this evening.
Anybody want the honor? Okay, I'll jump in. So I'm going to make a
My
motion
guest.
that we approve the plan. Is that sufficient for
Oh,
Abbey Road?
that's-
How about that?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Definitive
The
subdivision.
definitive
Plan, subdivision of land. This is the title of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
the
Here we
definitive
go, and I think
plan.
all coaching is welcome here.
Okay.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the definitive plan for the subdivision of land off Highland Avenue, known as Abbey Road, with the specified modifications and conditions listed in the
Yeah, listed in conditions 1 through 9,
1 through 9
discussed this evening.
As modified
this evening. Okay.
And the date of these plans are December
12/20.
20. So the plan, add the date of 12/20 onto the plan.
Second?
Okay, we have a second. Do you want to discuss? All right, let's see. Shall we take a vote? All the
Wait a bit.
yays?
Aye.
Aye. Nays? All right, and abstain. And Diab is absent.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
And Beth. Thank you.
Betsy,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
You can keep this for the special permit that we
Thanks
have.
to our
if you really
Winchester
want it,
residents.
but
Hey, it's
otherwise
not
I'll-
Thank you.
Thank you for coming all these many,
Thank you,
many
Brian.
meetings.
Thank you, engineering.
All right, we're going to move onward. We are ahead of schedule, so we're just going to keep trucking along.
Yes, yes.
Um,
Good job, Heather.
Unprecedented.
I think we should wait till 8:35 to do petition, so maybe let's go into our budget,
Yep.
Yeah, That's a
just
good
in
idea.
case anyone wants to be present for that petition. So fiscal year 20 budget discussion.
Give this to them. They may as well, 'cause they have to pay for it otherwise.
What?
I may as well, I can give them that paper.
Okay.
Well,
Thank
you're
you.
the last one out, Steve. You wanna, these are copies.
Thank you. You're welcome. Take care. Okay, so going into the budget, let's start the budget discussion. Last night, I attended the select board meeting. If the override does not pass, we will be in a $5 million deficit in the town. And trying to figure out how to manage that $5 million deficit, the select board last night determined, and they can always change their minds, and also town meeting can change it, but their goals with FinCom support is to go for 2.5 of reserves, which takes us to a very critical low point of our reserves, and reduce our budget for the schools by $1 million and also the government another $1 million. That's how they're going to make up the deficit. So the government budget is going to be hit by $1 million, which is very significant with that. And so everyone who's doing their budgets tonight, this school board is doing it. Also, the school committee is doing what they're calling an austerity budget to cut. And because they're tapping so much into our reserves, we can't count on the reserves to fund anything. And then we're doing a needs-based budget, not a wants budget. We all have huge amounts of wants that we would like, but what the planning board needs to operate at the way that residents expect us to operate. So in discussion, one of the issues we have is our master plan. And we need $75,000 to fund the
To finish.
Yep, to finish it.
of the master plan. And we can't take from the reserves to fund that. So what Brian and I were talking about, and everyone's having to do it, is to take, at this point, our professional services from this year, and next year, if the override does not pass, and use that to fund, and if we need professional services, we're gonna have to touch into select board's legal counsel fund and get support either through legal counsel or have to hold on any further, progress.
Just put off any
But
of the
that was a
further
little bit
progress.
fast for me.
No, that's okay. So,
You're saying we would use our leftover money?
Two things, our leftover money for this year and
all of our professional
all of our
services.
others for certain.
So.
Just for
we're-
the master plan, so no other, what does that cut? That cuts on-call?
All outside
cuts
consultants.
All outside.
It cuts everything,
services.
so that's
Yeah.
the point of the point of the
So-
budget is to do a austerity budget, meaning what do you need, what do you absolutely need to
absolute
get
that-
done
right.
next year?
Exactly.
And the master plan, I think, is what we need to get done.
Yeah, totally agree.
Absolutely.
But my question is, you're on a roll, but since the topic's being raised, what about grant proposals? Because there is,
Well, we can do that to see if we can
Yeah.
get some grants
yeah.
and then move. We just can't count on grants.
No, I understand.
Because we don't have a grant writer.
I'm
Well,
free
no, but-
enthusiastically,
But let
we
me say
shouldn't
this,
just
I mean, I'm
sit
just
here.
I'm just thinking about, and I'm sure Maureen would chime in here too, is that I'm just sort of thinking back to where we were, say, 15 years ago.
I was there.
I ditto. And, you know, and the thing is, it's like we had so little to work with, and we have been really blessed here, but I have to say that I think overall our budget, and this is just for public consumption, just so you know, we are not extravagant in our budgets
No.
at all.
Mm.
I mean, and,
We have one staff member.
yes, exactly.
No, but it's across the town,
No,
though.
no, she's talking about the town. She's talking
It's
about-
across the town.
She's a
And
man.
then
but-
it'd be like planning board meeting.
Well,
That's-
right, but town in general, I mean, we are not profligate in our spending in any way. I mean, and I can tell you, having served for many years on the finance committee before I went on the board of selectmen, but this town is run very, very,
Oh, we know, we
very,
know, we
very
know.
frugally, and that's
I
just for
know.
the general public, just
No,
so
the general public, I mean, you know, for 4 firefighters, we had to go for a grant. And now what we're talking about is going below the safe levels of firefighters at this point. That's what they're talking about in this budget, if the override. So at this point, I do not feel comfortable holding that on for a outside consultant. I'd rather that go back into the kitty and we keep a firefighter versus going, so we use our professional services and we just focus on the master plan for the austerity budget
How much
at this
is that?
point.
Well, we're asking for 45. So we were asking for $45,000 so the conversation that we're having is less about the numbers and and more about what we're gonna be doing with the money, meaning the numbers are the
Exactly.
same. It's, we are requesting $45,000. We've always had 30 and we've realized we'd like to have 30 plus more in order to do more work. The question for us now is if we're asking for 45, that 45 would go 100% to the master plan if we don't get an approval. So that way we won't have to, that way we would only have to ask for about maybe $20,000 or $25,000 as an appropriation from town meeting, rather than the full $75,000.
Yeah, I meant, what was the amount that we would have been spending on consultants next year?
Well, that's
We-
option.
It was going to be $30,000 to $45,000.
Right.
So that would get scratched. The money is the same, though. They were, I mean,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
still asking,
Okay.
but, well, because typically, so budgets are done in order to determine recurring costs. So it's not like we can say, oh, well, put the master plan as like in our budget in terms of, that's a very it's a special case. Obviously, it's a special project.
Right.
But one-
Typically, you would ask for, like we did the first time, ask for an appropriation for a certain amount of money. We asked for 75, we got 75, and now that this budget is occurring, we basically have to, this is a worst case
This is
scenario,
worst, yeah.
is,
I will say
is,
this,
is use all of it for
And
that.
I don't know how much in the weeds of a total budget, and then you drill down on the finer points of the budget, just imagining what we're spending on the master plan, so, because I responded, and by the way, you did, and nobody else did, but that co-urbanized, that was something we chose to fund, but we keep paying for it every month. I mean, there are places where we could also prune, and I'm totally with we gotta finish the master plan. There is no way we're
I-
getting to this
exact-
point
I
not
totally
finishing. But
agree.
even that one has a little bit of pruning option, because I'd hate to totally, so as I say, I don't even know, Heather, where you want to go with this in terms of how deep in the weeds, but.
No, I think,
Do we want to do grant writing? Do we want to cut out co-urbanize? You know, there are
I think
a
we're
few
gonna go for
things.
grants, but that wouldn't show up in our budget, right?
Right,
That's
right.
extra stuff that we get as we go through.
Right. Oh,
So
agreed.
where I'm going with it is the austerity budget that we submit to the town manager, and we go and say, we cut, and we cut hard, and this is what we did, and
It might not
hopefully she
look-
sees that, and she doesn't touch other things in terms of, you know, so we can continue just operating at this point, right? If,
I think it's really, it's not, to be fair, it's not really a cut in the budget. It's, if anything, it's a cutting out of a project or two in order to finish another project, but the budget is, the budget, on the whole, on the whole, the budget, that we have without the without the new hires is still higher than the than the FY19 budget
Right.
Mhm.
by
They always are.
$15,000.
Right.
Okay.
Well, partly because of steps, so, meaning salaries.
Yeah, I would
Sure.
yeah.
Because
Um,
that
but-
happens
So-
as time goes by.
Anyways, that's where it's really coming from, is that, so in this, we have to give our budget and then also our request that we will be going to town meeting for. And in the austerity portion, in that, what you present to the town manager is that this is what we're doing, this is what our component is and how we're gonna try to help. We have to finish the master plan.
Right.
Agreed.
So, all right, so I think it's fair.
So
to
that's our
say
solution,
And-
that's
and-
where
and
that,
if the.
That becomes our number one priority.
yeah.
Right, so, and then, so then in the override budget, we're still asking for 45,000, but that would actually go towards professional,
Yeah, that's what we
other
have to.
professional services.
Yeah, that would
which
go to North Main Street, so we can start working on
On-call
North
design
Main.
professional, all the
Right.
stuff that's right here, I mean, here
All
it
the
is.
stuff that the residents keep asking for, so.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no,
the
that's why
question,
keep
I mean,
thinking.
I don't, so I'm submitting this budget along with the memo that you have seen in terms of our short, medium, long-range goals related to the
Yeah.
master plan, how much is still left on the contract, how much is still left on our budget this year. That's all getting submitted on Friday, and then the manager will review, and then she will come up with her budget.
Mhm.
And
That's,
then from there, that's when it goes to the finance committee, and they do all of their work
right.
prior to the
It
town
is
meeting.
kind of
spring town
odd, though, I
meeting.
must say, when you're dealing with, because I'm just flipping through this, and I'll stop talking in a sec, but we get all the way to the housing production plan. We really do need some money to make some of this happen, so it's all. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but I think if the town doesn't vote the override, then really all of our work is halted, because there's no
That's what I'm
funds
saying.
to do it. We
No,
can't
no,
do that.
I mean, we're like actually choosing between these things and part-time teacher. I mean,
Yeah,
we're
me.
there to,
There.
No, I know.
that's where we are.
But our
Exactly.
budget's so tiny as a way.
Yeah, it is a little, yeah,
I've
percentage-wise.
been through
Percentage-wise,
these budgets a
percentage.
zillion times, as Betsy
true.
says.
Then that's why we're not touching any other, you know,
I'm not arguing
right, 'cause
with
we're
that.
not
computer
sitting here.
supplies aren't getting wiped out. But who knows what Lisa will come up with when she reviews everyone's budget altogether
Yeah.
and finds
Right.
where she's gonna find the million. But at least we're trying, and we were asked to give an austerity budget. And
Okay, so this thing that we got
Mhm.
is,
It's kind of, it's like a narrative associated with the budget.
but it's changing because you're gonna have two different options.
Well, so yeah, so there's two different options on the Excel sheet, but it's not fully explained in that's
The
what,
narrative doesn't have
the
two
narrative
options.
doesn't, right, well, it doesn't show how the two options were going. It's really more of, the beginning showing what we need and then what we're asking for. But it will, the narrative that's getting, sent on Friday will explain exactly what Heather was just talking about, and the fact that there's an austerity budget where even though the money is the same, all of that's going towards the master plan. The other one where it's actually going towards other projects, such as the North Main Street and the on-call design professional.
Yeah, and so I think we're done with talking about the austerity budget. Moving on, we're to the needs-based, and it's not the wants, it is a needs-based. What does a planning board need to operate efficiently, and the planning department to operate at the level and provide the services? We just went through the needs assessment, town did. We have so many surveys and all the results from the residents. We also have our survey from the master plan and phase 1 draft complete. So of all that information, what does a planning board need to meet those requests from the residents? And that's how we're gonna build our budget.
Absolutely.
Now, so do you wanna talk about what we're
Right, so
doing?
that's pretty easy. There's only two general things that are different from our in terms of numbers, in terms of our austerity budget and our needs budget.
Mhm.
One was the upping of the last conversation that we had was that, one thing that should be upped significantly was my travel budget. I obviously didn't think that that was part of our austerity budget, so I upped that in
Yeah.
the override budget.
No, that's
And
right.
the other thing, the other category, so that's the only thing that's like a one line item. All the other line items are employees. So everything else is exactly the same in terms of what
Right.
we would be asking for, because we need, everything else is to make business run.
Right.
So that, again, that's just the highlight. It's either, it's expanding the travel budget, and then we have $75,000 for a full-time employee planner, 28,000 for a grant writer, 40,000 for a part-time ZEO. Now, these three things, or I should say, the planner is the only clear person that is affecting our budget.
Right.
It's unclear if a grant writer or a ZEO would even be under our budget.
Exactly.
That is for the manager to decide. We don't have to
That's right.
decide that.
That's right.
So
So
it's
then
pretty.
Right, so then at that point, if that would come back to us again as we get closer to the town meeting.
I'm guessing
Is
they
that-
don't,
or
'cause
say-
I
saying,
know
is
they
that
org
something we
chart
wanna
really
support?
well,
Yeah.
and I
Right.
don't see that they fit in the
So-
org chart.
so-
But
so-
I'm all for them.
But we don't, we also don't know how, with everything going on, how everything's gonna be.
There could be a restructuring.
There could be a
of the
restructuring, there
departments.
could be, if,
Yep.
with a ZO coming in,
Mhm.
I mean, I know, the city of Boston split some,
Right.
so,
Okay,
you know,
so you're good.
that's, we don't know how she plans to structure that ZO. So, and a lot of times it does fall under the
So-
It does, that's
yeah.
correct.
So
planning department. So
there's-
it's up to the town manager to figure out how she wants to organize that.
Absolutely.
So there's not much more to discuss other than that it's very clear what our our F20 request is. It's based on keeping things status quo plus using our, liquidating our professional services for the master plan.
Mm-hmm.
And the override budget includes upping the travel and then new employees. So
Right.
if there's any conversation, we've been talking about this for several times, really in piecemeal, but I don't think I think I can develop the narrative or
Yeah,
build
yeah.
on that narrative, and I think we're there.
Yep,
Exactly. Good.
except for I must say the telephone drives me crazy, but that's just a comment.
It should, because every month I sign this, and I was like, my telephone doesn't work, but I'm still having to pay $16 a month.
But part of,
Fine, drop it. I couldn't resist.
well, no,
that.
but part of the override, one of the needs is to get everything up technology-wise, and the phone systems are one of them, but there's also all the permitting, right?
People's phones still work.
Yeah, well, not everyone's though. Some don't even have a phone right now.
That's
Yeah,
my
no, it's
point.
not-
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's the
Hello?
austerity budget.
No, that's right, current, that's
No,
without the.
There's someone in the engineering department that has no, I at least get internal calls, but someone in engineering doesn't get, there's no, phone is busted, totally, the whole line.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, that's right now without even without the override.
I
now.
just couldn't resist. Go
I
ahead.
know,
I was
saying
I'm
nothing
sorry.
wrong.
there
But
just
no, one
was-
of the
There was
components-
a little thorn in the side.
There are a lot of things that are in the needs budget that will make everyone at this table move a lot quicker, like all the permitting, they're talking about getting those online. To try, and, so we don't have to post everything on everything we look at online, because it's all available, because it's through the permitting and comes online. So getting the technology to a level, because we always, in the past, we've talked about all of that, it's, that's what the big dogs have, right? Well, now we're actually like the only dog who doesn't have it. So we kind of reached the point where all the small towns do have electric everything, and we're
Like electronic everything.
electronic everything, and we're not there,
Well,
so.
thanks to those of you who worked on the budget.
All right, so we have about 10 more minutes. What is hearing procedures? Do we want to wait till Deanne is
So
back for
that was just kind of a continuing of the two other things that we have on the agenda are Springtown meeting,
Mhm.
and then it was the subdivision hearing procedures, so we were trying to go one at a time. And I think the last time we talked about subdivision hearings, I think we talked about it for 15 minutes, and then
Yeah.
it got,
So I want to say just process. I edited this just the way I do minutes,
Mhm.
truly just for language.
Mhm.
So I'll just say, welcome to a public hearing of the Winchester Planning Board. And then it says, the board. Well, you don't need that if this is written to be read aloud.
Yep.
So this is truly just edited.
Copy editing,
So at what level do we want to just
Few
get
edits.
I
this
don't-
cleaned up?
yeah,
So
so-
that it seems to me it's a total waste of time, and we have generally agreed to do that at a meeting.
Right, no, it's really more
I would be happy to work
substantive.
with Brian to get this to another level.
Could
and
you
get
add
it-
the substantive into your working with Brian?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
oh, sure, wait,
Okay.
add it.
Yeah.
Wait, I heard you say add the.
Well,
substantive.
go through and add
Yeah,
your substantive
yeah,
thoughts, and then we'll bring it back.
Because just the way he's revised, and thank you, Brian, whoops, did I lose that? That was so good. Oh, shoot, that nice revised and upgraded.
Oh, yeah.
Thing that you
Now it's
handed
staying in
around.
here, but it
Right,
has your initials
but-
on them.
Oh.
Anyway, just the way he did that, I
Well, I need
think
it for
this
later.
document could also, actually, it's the only substantive thing, is that it just, here's the, as indicated in 6.7, the board has the ability to approve the project. And then there was that nice thing Brian just did, but we actually can deny the project without prejudice, deny the project with prejudice, if, and then this concept of withdrawing also needs to be recognized that it is something else that might
Yeah,
happen,
that's a-
so.
yeah.
And then that thing Brian just did was great, so, and maybe even that gets attached. We get one of these little spreadsheets that goes with procedures for each one of those, the way you did for the one when we
No.
voted on, was it a special permit? I can't even remember.
For the CBD?
CBD, yep, it was, exactly, so exactly, so that's the concept I have, but this is.
Do you like the process of
Yeah,
the
oh,
order
yeah.
and everything on it?
There
That's
might
what I
have been
wanted
one
you to
or
review
two
with
things.
Brian.
Right, exactly, but again, nothing that, except for, actually, nothing is other than to follow what we're doing, so.
And the timing and everything is in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, the timing is something the board wants to that's probably the one thing the board wants to discuss, is just how much time you want to spend on the public, and then moving into.
And what do you recommend? We'll start with
Right
your.
now, I just thought the general objective, overall, and this was true with the last round, which was like 2004, was to give parity to those presenting and anyone coming to the table who's in opposition. Now, if you've got a bunch of individuals, it's going to be a different concept, and we did not see a lawyer for this project, so I don't remember when you've last seen lawyers, but when a lawyer has been hired by the neighborhood, that lawyer really does deserve a time to rebut in the same way, or
Oh,
to,
yeah.
because they are rebutting, and it is
But they're
like a court.
representing multiple people.
Yeah, no, I thought we had come up with some language related
Yeah,
to
so
like
this
2 to
wasn't-
3 people,
right.
and that,
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
they're
and it actually
representing-
didn't come out the same, so it didn't add up, so they still were penalized against the original proponent. So I just think that when you get if it's going to be a hearing with a lawyer or a team that present, and then they sit down, that you want to have the opposition give the same amount of time. It did not add up, it was 5 minutes shy of what the other side got,
Okay.
that's all.
Okay, so, do you want to work with Brian,
Yeah,
put
yeah,
them in our
it shouldn't take
packets,
much
and then we'll
time.
put them on the agenda?
You can even use track
one more.
changes, so you can see what is.
Yeah, just do track
Sound
changes.
good?
Track changes, I think, is the way to
Yeah,
go.
we just-
Okay,
Good.
all right, we have like 4 more minutes.
Well,
Um,
as a follow-up to that.
Go ahead.
And then I think they're all different, but we've got 3 concepts of procedures. I'd love to blast through these and get them done. The other 2 would be the procedures for the hearing for town meeting. That's quite a different animal, but when
Yeah.
we have our warrant articles, we do want procedures too, and we just don't have, we've never had
No,
them.
No,
that
that's-
is
but-
on the list. So this
I
was, this
think-
was the first of, this was the
Right.
first on the list that we've been kind of eking through
Right.
because we're fitting it in with
Yeah,
the other
no,
stuff.
it's working, it's
Yeah.
fine.
So, with the procedures, but once again, Maureen, do you want to take and
Yeah,
come up with a
yeah,
draft of
yeah,
procedures? And then out of the table, and then we'll come back to it?
Yeah, it's a lot easier.
As a
than
group?
Dealing with word editing.
Mhm.
And coming up with theories at the table and stuff. I think you have a good grip on 2 procedures.
Exactly, exactly. If you need any help, just, give me a call.
Okay,
I want to find what I
Um,
have.
all right.
And I'm not, are you here for 2 Nassau by chance? Okay, so
Okay,
he's already
great.
here, so we might be able to just start.
Are you the property owner? Okay.
Okay.
Do you know, is anyone else from their company, like, should we wait for anybody? No, okay.
They're gonna wait until to the special meeting.
Got, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And do you have an extra copy?
We're
Probably
just-
was for Dia.
I don't want to
and
start until,
Handout.
Initials on it? This one?
It was
Just a
the
sec.
newest one for the motions, and I
Oh.
used that from the motion. I'm just shuffling paper, I hate to.
there's a lot of paper going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of paper.
Lot of
This
happening.
meeting it was actually probably the most amount of paper we've had.
All right, well,
Yeah.
so it was really, if you happen to have the one you printed for Dia, just snag it.
Just a
I
second.
missed that. Well, yeah, because I don't want to forget it, if you have it. Okay, I'm holding up the.
yeah, I do
Go.
not.
No, you're not, because we actually can't start for another 5 minutes based on the way it is. So I was looking for, we had 2 more items that we need to review. One is a action item that's been outstanding. But I don't know if it makes sense to start, so.
I think it's, I mean, it's
Meeting
technically,
minutes.
yeah, I mean.
We don't have any meeting
No
minutes,
minutes.
right? We
No.
have no meeting minutes?
No.
Okay.
I think, I mean, since it's not a, technically, it's a
Well,
hearing
if
and the
they're
applicant
here,
is
we're
here.
not- right,
So then I think
exactly.
it's okay.
We can press ahead.
Yeah.
All right.
It's fine.
Formal
Okay.
hearing, so, yeah.
We're close. It's better than 45 minutes like we were before, so.
Well, meaning if it would be different if it was, we had a scheduled hearing such as the Highland
No.
Ave subdivision that
Right,
was
but-
scheduled to a specific time where this is not.
Yeah, this is more informational.
No, I
than
know,
anything.
but we're more in the proximity than we were before we started
Yeah.
our budget size. So, if you would like to come up, right, and present what you're doing and
Why not introduce yourself, please?
introduce yourself, and speak into the mic, so everyone at home, and you're being recorded. So, welcome to WinCam.
How you doing? My name is Chris Duggan. I'm
Nice to
here
meet
on
you.
behalf of the homeowners at 2 Nassau Drive
Okay.
in Winchester.
Yep.
And the homeowners are looking to demo their existing home and build a new home on the existing site. All the setbacks regulate, we're here because we need, because of the lot size. But we meet all the setbacks as far as the zoning goes. And just based on the pictures I took and going through the neighborhood, it looks like the house we're gonna build kind of fits the style of a lot of the houses that have been built in the last 6 or 8 years in that neighborhood, so. Do you have any questions?
I have a
Trying to clear my space.
I have just one quick question. So, so all proposed setbacks that are adhered to for this undersized lot,
Yep.
the proposed house size and materials seem to be comparable to the other new houses in the vicinity. The question was, did you at all, or, did the owner at all look at potentially staying off of Nassau Drive in terms of the driveway, basically because there's a ton of mature trees here? So I just didn't know, I mean, this is a very minor
So the-
comment, because I don't really have any major issues with it. I'm just wondering if they even looked at that, because there's a ton of tree canopy that's nice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The reason we put the driveway off of Thornberry was because the design of the house and the grading of the lot wouldn't allow them to have a 2-car garage in the front of the house, as far as having access to get in and to make that garage work for them. That was the reason that they put the driveway on the other road.
But Brian, did you mean access it from?
Well, yeah,
Nassau
meaning
and
having,
curve around?
because basically the construction of this driveway destroyed, and as well as here.
There's a tree there, yeah.
There's a lot, it's a lot of good canopy there.
Can you
And
show
it's a
the
nice-
street
and
view?
it's a nice corner. Yeah, we can get the street.
So I'm
view.
gonna say
that would
this,
be-
because I'm now doing this on my iPad when I'm relaxing, so to the board, my buddies here, that we can do this at home before, and I
Yeah.
like seeing it on screen and for everybody else to see it, but it's really easy, so I would urge everybody just to throw these things into Google and just look before we get to the meeting. For myself, because I was curious to see how it fits with the scale of what else is on
Yep.
the street.
Exactly.
There's still a fair number of smaller houses. I guess
It's a
I don't
mix.
think
It's a
this-
mix, but
it's a
yes, you
mix.
are.
I said
Yeah,
fair number,
yeah.
right. There are some new builds. That is a very low house being replaced by a large house. The tree canopy is something I was also
Right, so
noticing.
yeah, it's
as Brian
pretty much
pointed
all
out.
of this canopy,
Right.
or most nearly, most of it's being gone, or is proposed to be gone in order to access the site here. If you, so just go down,
Could you
so,
have the garage on the other side of the house? Is that
right, so that's
what
what,
you're suggesting?
I was suggesting why not keep, or, widen the existing driveway in order to keep, it's really, what does it look, it looks like it's is it 3 trees or something?
Yes.
Or is it just, they just happen to be
Yeah,
really.
the trees in the
really
back
big.
of the house are gonna remain, the back of the canopy will remain. It's that one cluster right there on the back corner of
Right,
the house.
which is, yeah. So and it's typical when we ask, is if some mature trees are being lost, you would at least wanna ask, okay,
Yep,
what
for
did you
them to
do?
be
What did you
replaced.
do?
Exactly.
Did you at
what's
least
the
look at
thought?
it and,
Yeah.
But if you look at the other houses, so this is the house that's planned for demolition. If you go down the street, it's kind of a mix.
Yeah, we do side, yeah. Now, that's
This
the
is
new
built
build
in
I
the
saw.
90, I think this was built late 90s or something like
Oh,
that.
it's more recent than that.
That was
They
built
weren't
in
built
2000.
2001.
Right.
One, okay, so,
That's
um,
approximately the same size lot.
Then you see
Right.
what else is going on here.
and then there's, you know, there definitely are some 1.5 and 2-story. There are some ones that are built in 2013 and
So
2011.
stop there, by the way, if you don't mind. No, go a little
This
there.
blue one?
Yeah. Why aren't we able to, I mean, we are able to, just stop, you're in good, that's perfect, that's what I want. Yeah, you're making me dizzy. So that's really what we want. We don't need 2 bays of big pavement. It's so hard on the environment to just be putting in these massive, not just the curb cut itself, well, it's the curb cut and the driveway. This is a walking neighborhood. People, it's totally pedestrian. These aren't cut-throughs or, I mean, this is just people walking the street, no sidewalks, which I'm
Walking the
fine with
dog,
that.
yeah.
Walking the dog. So these giant paved curb cuts, that would be where I'd start with the, if we're talking about what, and then I don't know how that impacts the tree canopy, as Brian's pointing out, but pulling in the curb, just the whole amount of pavement to me is, and let's go back to why is this project before us? It's an undersized lot.
It's 15, just over 15,000 in a 20,000
So
square foot.
less pavement.
So there.
So the pavement that's actually on that's on the lot already is the curb cut is actually narrower, is 1 lane wide. But the driveway itself that we're gonna be removing is a 2-car wide driveway. at
That's
the
what she's
garage.
asking. She's asking for like a trumpet.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Heather.
Okay. Yeah, we could,
If we can get that,
Attain
I
something
feel
like
like we're
that.
starting.
Yeah,
We're
let's
off and
trumpet
running.
it, so it is less,
Yeah, little,
We should
little
be
less.
pushing for
little
that
less
more and
concrete.
more.
as a homeowner, I'd actually like it.
Exactly,
Well,
not
I think it
everybody.
really adds to
It
neighborhood
looks
character,
better,
you know, the more trees that
green.
you
Yeah.
have, I think it really
More
does. And it-
absorbent.
And also, it really helps also just in terms of just runoff,
yes.
overall runoff and everything,
I
and
think they're
overall
over here.
benefit to the neighborhood.
So that may help because we
Um,
can,
Are they
see, I
marked
just
too?
don't know. No, we don't require that on these.
All right,
The only other
Well,
question I
if you-
have is,
If you look at the plan, it is trumpeted a little bit, not quite as much as the
oh, more,
existing
more,
one.
more.
yeah.
More. It's Winchester. It's classier looking, let's put it that way. If you got more lawn, less pavement. I don't want to look like it's, I won't name names, but. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
Chris, Duggan,
Last name?
Duggan, Duggan, Duggan.
And you're based where?
I'm, Billerica, Mass.
Thank you. No, I just think we ought to know who's at the table,
Yeah.
because we have builders all over coming in, and we won't tell you what we want to see in Winchester.
Absolutely.
And the other question I have to the board is, again, this is before us because it's a substandard lot, and I guess I appreciate the fact that I was glad to see a Palladian window over the front door as opposed to, it's of course also over the garage, but at least it's not totally weird. But how do we feel about, it is vinyl siding. It's really out of character with the
Yeah, I
neighborhood.
was wondering if I didn't think all the ones around it were vinyl. with
They're
the
not.
The
shutters.
newer,
They're
the
not.
newer ones are, the older ones definitely are not.
Are they vinyl or are they composite?
I can't tell. They
There's a mix of, the new ones are a mix of composite,
It-
wood, and
Most newer is going to composite lately.
Right,
Yeah,
I'm
that's what I keep
understanding,
seeing.
and I'm having to trust other people on this, but that there are some composites that are more wood
Attractive than
looking.
others.
Yeah, more
Yeah.
attractive is the word, we're using these words. I'll turn to anybody who wants to jump in. Heather Von Meering, I think that's your area. Is there something be better than
Yeah,
vinyl?
it's a composite, but that,
Product?
it's a composite siding. There's different
Don't they,
brands.
right, but don't those, does anyone? I'd like wood, but I'm not going to even go there. But I don't like vinyl, I'm sorry, I don't, that's,
yeah, and
Yeah,
I understand that.
And
especially for
again-
the shutters.
The homeowner's looking for.
low maintenance.
Low maintenance.
I know, we know.
The composite is the lowest maintenance, it's just a higher price point.
But it's our
It's low
neighborhood,
maintenance.
I mean, not mine, but it's our town,
No,
our neighbor's neighborhood, and we want a quality build.
Okay. Did anyone else have any questions before I have them excused from the table for the builder?
Yeah, I don't have a question.
Okay, if you want to take a seat back, we'll talk a
Welcome
little
to
bit more.
Winchester.
and
Thank you.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
coming.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
So,
I was just wondering, I like that the garage is on the side,
Me
but
too.
that's still a street, so
Yeah.
I was kind of wondering like
Could be on the other side.
Flipped, like
Yeah.
if it's a new home, you can just mirror it. Could you have the driveway come down on the right and then to the left to the garage?
I think that's what Brian was
And then
asking.
you don't see it.
Is that what you were
Yeah,
talking about?
yeah,
Then
basically,
the garages, no one from the street is ever seeing the garages.
it sounded like the grading was the major issue.
But the picture, it looks flat and then it drops down. I mean, you don't have to have, you mean if you scoot the house over, it's up high on the left? Is that what you mean?
You end up with a retaining wall on the right-hand side.
Yeah, so it's going
From
up
the
as you go
side
here.
property to the left.
Yeah.
You would end up with a retaining
Yeah.
wall if you're trying to, you'd end up with a driveway with two retaining walls on the side of it if you're trying to put a garage on here.
What you're saying, so if you're trying to get in here, in order to stabilize this slope here, you're looking at, so that, she's talking about right here.
Yep.
You need a retaining wall
Oh, I thought
there.
in the street view, it looked flat from the front and on the left is where the,
So it's going up in elevation as you go to the east.
The, a 10-foot difference, so on the right-hand side of the property, the elevation is 322.
See,
and at
320.
At Thornbury Road, the elevation is
310.
310.
Right here. So,
The whole lot is 10 feet
right,
from
so
left to
they're
right.
making use of that without
Grade,
having to
grade.
create
Yeah, I prefer
retention walls.
stay away from retaining walls.
So, I mean, you could put the garage facing Nassau with the driveway off of Nassau, or you could do what they did, which is put the garage off of Thornbury, which is put the driveway off of Thornbury.
With the design of the house to keep the footprint smaller, we kept the fin room area small, so we already have that two-car garage. You would have to have the one-car garage would go in like to the left of the front stairs, which really, we didn't find very appealing.
Yeah, no.
It sets it back and it sets it down.
Actually, we're not okay with this.
I mean, it sounds,
Exploring, but.
based upon sentiment, I don't know, it sounds like it would be a potential recommendation for, a material change.
yeah, I
If-
mostly
If
didn't
that,
like the vinyl.
and
Yeah,
then,
yeah, no,
yeah.
so you
yes.
make a
The
recommendation.
siding and the shutters.
Yeah, good to catch the shutters, and I
And
don't know what
trim.
the trim, yeah, same.
Some of the trim is AZAC, but some of it is vinyl. It's a
Yeah, no
it's
vinyl.
a-
No
So-
vinyl.
and the driveway shape. And then the other thing I was thinking of adding into there is, they're gonna take out the trees. And to, those are,
The stock sentence we use, preserve as many mature trees that's possible, like something,
is it to
something,
preserve it or
Yeah.
replace? What is,
well, it depends what you want.
I would say
Preservation, I mean,
preserve, and if not able,
Replace with this,
replace with a strong caliber tree. I don't know what else.
Exactly, because.
I mean, that thing is
That's
huge.
one of the things I was thinking.
That might be a maple.
Right, because basically,
That what you're talking about?
well, because that's the thing, because once you start taking away mature trees, I mean, it's gonna take another 20 years or so for something else to
Yeah.
go up.
More than that.
I mean, well, yeah, I mean, or you're
Just saying.
you're buying a tree for $8,000 is really, I mean, we're not really
Right.
saying, I don't know
But
if
some of the
that's,
street ordinances have that. They say replace with the same.
Yeah.
size.
or they say, or if not the same, they say at least a
I know,
6-inch
I wrote
caliper.
it.
yeah. So as of
I
right now,
think-
it's,
I mean, for
it's
private
siding,
property.
shutters, and trim should be composite. The driveway shape should be, more
Trumpet.
Is it
trumpeted.
I like that. No, just say, it should be
Trumpet shape to reduce the curb cut.
Yeah, good.
And,
Okay,
as we heard from the applicant, the house can't shift that much, right? So the trees are gonna get, if we just say preserve as
You-
much as you can, it's not gonna, we
that's
know
not gonna do
realistically
anything.
it isn't,
It
so
would
that's
be,
what I was
it
gonna
would be, the
say.
mature trees, should be, not
Retained.
retained, because that one can't be retained, it's,
So,
should be replaced with I mean, you can't say similarly sized tree,
No.
that's
No.
not possible.
Just
But I think we
replaced.
should have, I think that the plan should have to show mature trees on the plans, because
this is supposed to be part of the,
we can't
Existing
see
conditions.
where the trees are located in relation to the house.
We have that on our subdivision and A and R as our requirement. I don't.
But this comes up a lot
Wait,
when we're
Right, right,
using
right.
other
That's true.
ones.
where's the
Um,
plans?
There's no, Brian, help
There
me
it
out if I'm wrong, but I believe
I couldn't find
there's
that.
no requirement in our zoning.
But why
No.
don't we require that?
This was a talk for Springtown meeting, that we were gonna talk about a potential bylaw
there.
related to that.
Yes.
I'll add it to our,
No, it should, yeah.
I'll add it to our,
But
yes.
we
We'll
think
talk about it in
mature
20
trees
minutes.
Should be replaced to the maximum extent possible, is
Yeah.
usually,
Yep, and we'll let
place.
ZBA figure that one out.
Yeah.
and define it in theirs.
Okay.
The one thing we didn't do is we didn't hear from Beth
Oh,
before.
She has her
We didn't hear
stuff.
from Beth.
Oh.
Did you have any comments, Beth, that you
Yeah,
want to
so,
share?
Brian Kerrigan provided comments to the ZBA, I don't know if you got a copy of them, but we had some concerns with the.
we did not.
No.
No, we did not. Do you know what those are?
You know what, it's going to the ZBA.
So,
Unfortunately,
I just,
I mean, typically.
Can you just,
support the ZBA, I mean.
The support
the
engineering.
as usual.
I just want to know what we're supporting.
Yeah, so, there's an issue with the test pit in the front of the property, showed modeling, indicates where high groundwater is.
Mhm.
And they have their infiltration system at the level, at the bottom, the infiltration is at the level of the soil modeling. And the
2
state standards require a 2-foot separation.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay.
And then they use the wrong infiltration rate,
Okay,
so
You can
there
say,
needs to be some.
okay. And
say
then
agree with and support the engineer's comments.
agree and support engineers. And
support.
did we get, we didn't
The
get
date of that memo is January 7th,
Okay.
It's you.
from Brian Kerrigan to the
Good.
ZBA.
It was on
Yeah,
yours.
yeah.
Must say.
Engineers.
Okay.
7th,
Yes.
Shuffled it. out.
2018.
That's
Okay,
what
so we have
19.
2019. I'm in the wrong
No, I
year.
think
Happy
like-
New Year.
Don't feel bad, I don't think there are lots of us who haven't quite caught up yet.
Okay, I think,
So, what was, so all the conditions that were talked about, and someone could make a motion off of this, was to, recommend favorable action if the siding, the shutters, and the trim are composite.
Mhm.
The driveway shape should be a trumpeted shape to reduce the size of the curb cut.
Correct.
Mature trees should be replaced to the maximum extent possible,
Yeah.
and that we agree with and support the engineer's comments from January 7th.
So moved.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those not? And Diab is not present. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, so
Good luck.
Thank you so much for your assistance.
Can I please have these sheets back?
You have that?
The one that Maureen somehow lost?
So I think mine went off with.
Which was
the
that
Wait,
one.
he might have claimed yours already. Oh,
I think that's what I
Where
did.
did it go?
Make another
I
one.
think I gave it away.
Where did it go?
she's
I
donating
think I
it.
Donated it to the poor neighbors of Dana Ave.
Okay.
This one? Yeah, but that's your copy. It says Liz Campbell on it.
Does she
Okay, there
want
you
it?
go.
Do you need it?
It helps with the motions, I think.
Okay, yeah,
I'll
I
just-
want you to have it if
I
you
will
need
just
it.
make another one.
Make me a copy. If you email it. That's weird. Here it is. How'd that get here?
Never mind.
Hey,
Oh,
yes.
Okay. Moving on to the agenda.
It's here.
Our next item on our agenda is Springtown meeting
So
items.
this was based, or this list was based on an email, I believe, actually, I don't know if that's one thing. I'm not sure if I do have that email.
We have copies of
I
it.
know, everyone has paper copies.
Should we
So-
just, the email that's driven is one that Maureen sent.
Right, so it's,
Yeah, I saw that.
looks like this,
Excuse me.
the list.
And we
Yes,
have not.
I remember seeing it, and now I'm trying to locate it. 'Cause I know I had it.
So maybe, I'm not sure the best way to go forward with Springtown meeting and how to prioritize these. And then there's some that are missing that I would like to get in there
Yeah.
as for consideration. And maybe what our goal is in a short period of time is to determine the priorities and go from there and where we really want to focus as a team.
Yeah, because this isn't going to be the only time we're going to be discussing this, obviously.
Yeah,
Well, let me throw this out, jumping right in. There's certain things, like anything we do with GBD 2-3, where we would want to already get out our calendars and get that all lined up, because we'd want to notice the residents or the property owners and the abutters.
Right.
So that just even, I'm wondering if we can do it, but if we aim
Well, I
for
think-
it, or even if we can't, we want to, I would say, right early on, just get
Well, there's-
notice, get the public into the planning board.
You mean
Yeah.
before we've talked
Here we go.
about what the changes are?
That's what I was looking
Well,
for.
I would say it probably could do one meeting on our own, but in terms of the I hate this verb, it's not a verb, calendaring, but to schedule anything.
Scheduling.
Yeah, plain English, that you can already see when the warrant article closes for Springtown meeting and when we have to get, if we're going to change zoning, that's huge, and GBD 2 and 3. I do think we would want to get up and running, but we just even looking at the calendar and seeing how our meetings are scheduled now, which is good, how we can make it.
Yeah, so I have,
Did I answer you?
No.
Try again. Your question for
Oh, I
everyone.
just meant you wanna see, do you wanna see if we even have time to do it in?
Well, I think we have to
Or you
think
wanna
about.
schedule
We've got
it?
I think
time right
this
now,
entire-
but-
I think this entire list, which kind of, I think the board's list already, but
Yep. Yeah, so
is
looking at
something
that.
where we want to then look at it against the calendar, because
Well, I had some ideas on Main Street, and we've never talked about this as a board, and maybe we'll see what your feedback is from my perspective. With Main Street, there are some things that we can do that aren't too invasive, from changing from what's by right to what needs to be done through special permit
exactly.
or site plan
Agreed.
review.
I agree.
And I don't think those will be looked or be such, town meeting will most likely say, okay,
Agreed.
that makes
Don't use
sense.
the word invasive, though, for whoever's watching.
Invasive and too of,
So, no, maybe too.
Aggressive.
Aggressive, or.
right.
I think it's reasonable.
Too big a step.
Yeah. And so that's what I was thinking is what can we do?
I agree.
And it really is the difference between everything, I don't know why sorry. I don't know why it was on. What we can do to,
Oh, and I understood that, too.
and so why, my thought was, and I have some ideas on what that is, and go through that real quick, and then if we do need to back up and we need to come back through with all these additional steps versus a standard process we take, then we'll, at this meeting, we'll figure that out. So
Have you guys already talked about what kind of zoning changes you wanna see on Main Street?
I was just gonna tell you what my thoughts were.
Okay, cause what I was
Well, hang on.
trying to say, and I guess I didn't say very well to Maureen, is I didn't even know what we were thinking, and so
We
why
haven't.
would we start
Oh,
scheduling?
well, we
if
haven't really had
talked
any
about it?
discussion.
Well, hang on, because
Getting-
it's, to me, it's a two-part process. We should certainly have one discussion by ourselves, but it helps a whole lot to bring the property owners in. And there will be
What- yeah.
people who want
Yeah, right,
new
anybody who's
zoning. There
impacted.
will be people who want it, and there will be some who won't. But the earlier it happens, the better it is, because then it's truly open and
Exactly.
genuinely not
You're
all
saying
half-cooked
brainstorming with the
before.
public.
Yeah, it's basically
Exactly.
getting the
Public
whatever, the
input.
challenges and the opportunities for the area. So if you're, not that it's like necessarily good practice, it actually just, it does make sense to at least get, what's working in that what's working in that neighborhood, what's not working. Then
Right.
it's at least, it's a good starting point. You get people involved early.
Yeah, that would help, I think, avoid some of what we saw at the last
I
town
mean,
meeting, is that it
Clearly,
didn't
we could have
come
done
from-
better. I mean.
Right.
No, but I'm
there's
saying
no-
if it
So-
comes from a meeting and you've documented that people
Exactly.
request it, that's different.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's not
there's.
top-down,
Right.
right.
And the other thing too is, well, let's talk about what we have, because you have some ideas, I have some ideas.
Or do we want to just
We
jump
can
through?
keep going through. Okay, that was number 2.
Do you want to do one?
Number 1,
I don't even know how to describe it.
that one's a really difficult one.
So, yeah,
To undertake, at this point, I'm like, to undertake, I think it's gonna be very difficult.
Okay, I didn't.
I think we can start exhibiting it's a little different categories, but our green, yellow, red kind of thing
Yes.
where we had, whereas green, it's like, this seems like we should work on this.
Yep.
Yellow is like, this could be difficult, but we want to work on it.
Okay.
And if there's anything that's red, potentially number 1 at the moment. And this will be a fluid thing, but it might be good to just, because some priorities
Yeah.
will probably come out of this, of whether you think
Right.
it's kind of, this is something worth pursuing, it's worth pursuing, but we probably don't have the time for it, and then we shouldn't pursue this. So
Right.
kind
Can
of
we
a
use
green.
some other way? Because maybe orally green, yellow, red, or whatever yellow.
Well,
It's a
does,
light-
but
things that
Can we just call it something like STM, like Springtown Meeting, and then something
I
like
like the green, yellow, red.
2019?
I liked it too. It's like driving.
How are you
Sounds
gonna-
like, okay, green,
right.
Yellow, we're gonna slow down.
I can't read.
Red, we're not doing it, we're stopping.
We're not printing in
Yes.
color. so.
Okay, noise, you're supposed to write the color. Okay. Revisit, you're supposed to write the color, not highlight it in color.
No,
Okay,
I
so
know, I
just
can
so the
still spell-
public
I can still
knows,
spell my colors, you know?
because I didn't read it. The first item we're talking about is we postponed an article relating to the additions that are over a certain percentage. A certain percentage of what?
The existing,
Square footage.
Existing square footage.
And
existing square footage.
when we proposed the,
Can Brian add that to this, if you could revise this? so
Revise
we-
this
Yeah.
list.
Yeah, so it starts to make sense to all of us.
so what we were seeing is a lot of
It's the residences.
the residences were taking houses and duplicating them next to each other and doubling the size of what was built, and it was causing huge implications on the neighborhoods. When we started discussing with residents, we were getting feedback that when you have a smaller property or a smaller structure, and we're specifically talking about ones that are like in the 1,500 square foot houses, and they're looking to go to something, even that's allowed right now by zoning, they would now fall under it. So they didn't, it wasn't, there needs to be more depth of work put into it, and we acknowledged that and postponed it.
One thing that's tricky with that one for me is if it's a resident versus a developer who's flipping it. I had sympathy when we were hearing that a resident felt they couldn't add on to their
Mhm.
house, but the other thing that we're seeing is, well, what if someone buys it and then they're basically building a new house, but they're calling it addition and it's
Yep.
twice as big? Well, that I wouldn't care for.
Mhm.
If someone wants to add on, a bigger kitchen, family room or whatever.
Fortunately, I don't.
You can't
really
Right, I'm just saying it's
distinguish
tricky
between
for me
Oh, I
because
see,
it depends
yeah.
on who's doing it.
Yeah,
And why. If
well-
you're trying to flip it so that someone comes in and pays $2 million, that's different than just improving your home.
Yeah, and I think the percentage we had was 50%, so if
It
you
was
have,
the
Yes,
Additional
yes.
50.
but one of the things that some people recommend is why not consider having exclusionary? So like, if your house is up to 2,000 square feet, you are not subject to this. It's very complicated, and so I see it as a yellow closer to
Okay.
red at this point, but I think we still need to view it, but we need a
Work
lot
on it
more.
over the summer, for example?
Yeah, I think it's more of a
Need more
summertime
time,
research.
We could, and then bring it in the fall
How
perhaps.
often do we see that problem?
We saw it twice in the past year. It was this,
Hmm. Do we-
yeah.
Do we want to really,
No, I mean, but
That
it
was
was,
twice.
it happened twice, and it was kind of this melding of a
twice, that's all she needs.
Twice.
twice.
It's
Sorry,
gonna,
Brian, keep it simple.
so I think we would be much more successful if we looked at it in the summer
I would say
and
yellow.
examined.
Yeah, to
Well,
bring-
it's a red for Springtown meeting.
Oh, that's what.
Yeah, this was more of what you're feeling on what we should be pursuing for actual.
Red for Springtown meeting? Isn't Springtown meeting green, like go? That's why I'm having trouble with
Yes, it's
colors,
not going to
people.
Springtown meeting, it's going to fall, or
Oh, okay.
there.
Because we're looking in Springtown
Red.
meeting.
We're just focusing on Springtown
But is
meeting.
Fall Town meeting yellow?
We're in like a
I'm
meta
having
level
trouble with
here.
this,
We're
guys.
just
Wait.
talking, we're
Alright.
just talking
Let's
about,
call it Springtown meeting.
and this one is Fall Town
STM.
meeting.
Right.
Fall
Okay,
Town
It's
meeting.
a lot better for me.
Um,
So I'm overruling
Two,
everybody again.
I would like to, I think is green, we just need to figure out, we need to talk more about it. We'll come back to that one, that's a
So,
very.
but there is, so that is a conversation with Jennifer, so number 2 is a conversation with Jennifer Goldson. She's supposed to be coming up with
Well,
a specific,
Yes, but I think we want to, I would like,
Specific what,
okay.
can you finish?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Apologize.
a
Recommendations.
scope of work and a price for looking at a zoning and land use analysis for GBD 2 and 3.
Okay, we got problems
Let
then.
me jump in. I feel we got in by exactly a 2/3 vote in this town meeting. Now,
Yeah.
we have I think, an obligation to the property owners who were opposed, who got rezoned, and also the town meeting members, that we have some commitment now. Now their properties really are locked in as residential to deal with the impacts on their properties of what's going on in GBD 2 and 3. And some of them were very clear that they're not crazy about what's happening in GBD 2 and 3. So now I think, for example, what Heather's saying, we don't really, I mean, I definitely want, I want to make it really clear, want to continue and move as fast as we can with Jennifer, but the idea of site plan review is an example of something that we can add in the zoning right now, and it's pretty straightforward. So I think
And
we
we
can
can't
mix,
tap in.
we can do both.
We can't tap into that budget until we hear the vote or the override.
Oh, I mean,
So,
To be honest, it's not looking very good for that, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, well then.
no, so we can't tap into our consultant budget until we hear
We
from
can't say, yeah, we can't say we're designating that money.
to her, and so, but then that leaves us with not enough time to get product to town meeting, so we have to go on this, that we have no consultants coming between now and town meeting. And so any work we do from now until town meeting,
not spending
we're
any money.
independent, we're not
Right.
spending any money
So
right
this
now.
sounds like a light version.
Yes.
Because when I read this,
Yeah.
I think, oh my god, there's no way we could complete that by.
It's a light,
spring town
it's
meeting.
what
So
can we
you
do
mean,
just
like,
to,
step A.
Yeah,
while we go
incremental.
through, while we go through a
We
true,
could go through the CBD for starters and just say, yes, this works, this would be good, and this
Yeah.
is, and we
It
have a
just seems
track
like such a
record.
big
And we've got a
thing.
track record on that, so there
Well,
you
some
go.
of it has to do with just right now, well, again, I'm not sure we wanna go into the weeds until like the next meeting and discuss,
Mhm.
why don't we put some time into the next meeting? What we could, what we think we can do in GBD 2 and 3, that would be, I mean, either just very straightforward, like requiring site plan review,
Right.
versus, and then just weigh it against, the center business district zoning and what we think we can lift and move and apply to GBD 2 and 3. 'Cause
So this is a first cut, and then it would be clear that we're gonna do something more
Yeah.
thorough later.
yeah, it's just, kind of, to allow people to continue to grow and develop,
I think, you know what,
but responsibly, until
Yeah.
we're ready to really rezone
maybe
it.
this for Springtown meeting really should be between now and Springtown meeting.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because maybe there's something Springtown meeting related to it, meaning there will be an action, but maybe it's just us continually working on this throughout January, February, and March.
So I mean, there have been main things that are missing is the special permit review, the site plan review. There's also inclusionary housing is not
That's
included.
correct.
Yep.
Good.
That's a good thing.
The covered porches are not included in their square footage counts,
Right.
which was a big issue, so they're leaving open
So
porches.
let's do that at a
That-
next
that-
meeting.
Well, I'm just giving it so everyone knows what I'm
Okay.
thinking,
Yeah.
and
I
then we can
agree
move
with that.
forward, we don't need to
Those are
discuss.
good.
That problem, though, has nothing to do with GBD 2 and 3. We've found out that the problem is actually within the
FAA.
definition of gross floor area, which
Ah.
opens another basket of fun.
Forms,
Maybe
you
we-
know.
Well, it's
Well,
actually.
just because a lot of things within the bylaw touch that definition.
Yep.
But not that we shouldn't do it. I'm just saying that, like, it's not a question of GBD 2 and 3. It's a question of changing that definition and see how it does.
complicated would that be?
I mean,
Is-
no,
are
do-
there
doable
models
for
of other-
Springtown meeting.
Yeah, do you think?
Yes.
Oh, well,
Okay.
Oh, you
Okay.
know why it's not gonna, because if you think of like someone who has a front porch, that now is coming into their square footage.
So again, this is why it's
Oh.
not just
Couldn't it be the number
And
of
we wanna
units that
encourage those
triggers it?
porches.
so yeah, again, it's like we would have to specify it for GBD 2 and 3 because it touches so many other things in the zoning
Right.
bylaw. So it's
We don't wanna touch
complicated. I do think it's
You think it's
doable.
doable?
I think it's doable for
Okay,
Springtown
let's
meeting.
hear how it's going to read. It's a new number 6, because it's Springtown meeting. It's the definition of gross, help me out.
Gross floor area.
Definition of, under G, I
Yep.
actually thought I.
Or actually, no, I think it's under F for floor area, and then it's floor area, comma, gross is what I think it is.
It's gross.
I'm not
My
even
kids
going
would
there.
love this.
All right.
Even my mature
Okay,
kids.
so we picked that up, and then I'm just gonna finish with where I was also thinking is, so 2.5 stories by right.
Yeah.
Right now, they're at 3 stories by right.
Yes.
And,
Oh, I'm
so
glad you
2.5
said
stories
that.
by right at 40 feet, which is the same as all the residential districts, so if they're gonna build up against the residential, they blend in.
Also, we can
Right.
now see
Special
what
permit.
3 with no set,
Yeah.
no pitch is like. It's really,
And the last thing I had was 40 feet, including all the elevator shafts and everything, not allowing those to go above the 40 feet without special permit.
all good.
So that's what I was thinking as things to add in there as a placeholder to hold us until we get a full rezone of North Main
All good.
in place.
So one other,
Did you?
there was one other thing, and it's related to this number 1 about that's we've pushed to fall town meeting, number
Mhm.
1 saying additions over a certain percentage.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a different way to kind of look at that problem. I never felt comfortable, nor probably will ever feel very comfortable about limiting additions based upon the percentage.
Okay.
But I think that a lot of the issues that are associated with those problems could be fixed through a changing of the by right height in residential zones.
Ah,
So the fact that you weren't able, the fact that, the fact that you can go to 40 feet in a residential zone, a 40-foot, a 40-foot tall, like, let's say 4,000 square foot home can be a lot more menacing than the same square footage home at 34 and a quarter.
Absolutely,
So
because it's liable to loom.
I have, and this is not like,
This is like a massing.
Add that to
thing?
fall town meeting, will you, the
well,
35 by
yeah.
right?
yeah, and this is more of trying to simplify the zoning bylaw rather, yeah, I think it's a simplification rather than talking about FARs and, anything, even the design, coming to do with, quote, bad design. It's worse if it's 40 feet tall
Yes.
when comparatively to a really bad design that's 34 feet tall.
So are you saying you would, if the height of the addition is gonna be that high, then?
I think that most of what we're seeing are tear down new construction or or if this like funny business related to demolition,
Yeah.
where it's like, the one that comes to mind is you're demolishing everything except for the garage and then, except for the main house, and then you turn the main house into the garage and you build this house on top of it.
Exactly.
I think if the scale of the buildings were lower, I don't think we would have to get as complicated.
Oh,
I think
that's true. Because the
naturally
because the
things
impact
will-
of the-
Oh, but height in residential has certainly been in my mind.
And-
I just
And this is
don't
more of
know
a
if I'm
feeling,
ready to
like,
go for it.
obviously work, like, this is me talking, but like, work would have to get put into this.
Should that, maybe the economy's slowing down, I'm not sure is that good or bad, but is that something that would be better to deal with after the master plan is done, with just the heft of the master plan behind it?
I'm,
It's a pretty-
sure,
I
I'm
actually
just-
think for the town, like, when people say, how did that get built or whatever, I think the town and generally would support, the town, I'm talking about
Generally support
citizens, would think that's a good idea. But getting it to the point where it's ready for town meeting, it might be a lot better with the master plan, saying what are because these topics of the new builds
that's very
is
true.
something.
we're also gonna get, it'd be great, so we're just about, and we'll have this tomorrow night, we're just about to enter into, kind of scheduling all of these events for a master plan, meaning that soon the J.M. Goldson team is gonna be out in Winchester, often,
Mhm.
and gaining a lot of feedback, and hopefully it's gonna start, fostering good conversations that will actually help us do our job better and come up with solutions to real problems. Not that we're not doing that now, but the idea is that we'll have more insight. And again, this is more of a feeling. I think that in general, I think a goal for us is to simplify the bylaw
To the extent that we can, yeah.
to the extent that we can. I think this could help out in a way, and in addition to that, simplify some parts of the code.
Okay, all right, so we're gonna, that's something that we need to add that to our list and put it towards fall, or it's not even fall, spring.
Well, it's
It'd be
more-
the
it's
following
more of- it's
spring is when the
ongoing
master
work.
plan
It's-
is done.
It's just ongoing work
Right.
that we're,
But it should be added on our to-do list somewhere in there. So then revise the GBD zoning for Washington at Swanton property to allow residential use. I think that should be put to fall. That will take some work to figure out what's best and
So
Look at
here's
that.
the deal with that. Right now, is everybody with me? That's where CVS was, had the, and withdrew.
going
And
to
they,
go,
so the property is now back among, I assume it's actually a trust, but that's not a known fact. But it's among family members. And right now, the current zoning, help me out, but it does not allow residential. It's a GB, it's a GB or
it's
GB1.
GBD1.
That's what I thought, one.
Right.
So, but that means it's zoned for commercial. I'm not
Commercial and mixed-
opposed,
and
it could
mixed
be,
use.
but I don't believe mixed is in there. Do you wanna look?
Yeah, we can look very,
So, you can check over here, but that won't tell me.
I'll tell you in a second.
The point is that if this is a very large parcel, and if the property goes up for sale, do we want to be ahead and make that, basically send that message back to the property owners that residential and specifically multifamily is an appropriate use, and then we want the inclusionary, there's a lot that we want to capture before the ship sails.
But don't we also wanna see commercial?
I don't know that I feel strongly either way,
Okay.
but there's no inclusionary, and right
Yeah.
now it
So
could
no,
be,
so mixed use is not allowed.
that's an important point.
That's an important
Please,
point.
everybody, process.
Which one is it that we're
So
looking at?
it's GBD one,
Yeah.
which there's like 4 or 5 parcels in the whole
Mhm.
town. It's GBD one. It's kind of
The
this weird.
dinosaur.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
this
zoning.
weird redheaded whole thing going on there. Anyway, the 0 residential uses are allowed in GBD one.
Yeah.
Not even a combination of.
And that's a very large
Not even a
site.
combination of
Yeah.
uses.
And
So
man, that's got people, like, real, everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people say, what is going on over there? Well, we don't control it, we don't own it, but actually, the zoning would be a very powerful way to bring everybody to the
Powerful
table,
tool.
and that's another issue. Let's talk, folks, and we certainly have the opportunity to consider a friendly 40B if we can bring people to the table, but nobody's coming to the table. So it's a political as well as well, it's always political, but it's also a vision of what would work best on that site for Winchester.
I mean, the only thing I know is the property owners are looking to sell to someone or have a ground lease. I mean, it's kind of all up in the air. No one really knows exactly what's going on, other than the fact that they are shopping.
And
Couldn't
we'd
we
have,
do that freeze of uses thing that we saw?
They could do yeah, but I don't know. I think we could actually, they could, but I think that would hurt them.
They don't want to. They
Well,
won't
I think I think it would hurt them. I think they might be able to get more money if they would do a larger mixed-use project than just do a commercial-only project. So
Oh,
it would be, I mean, maybe, I don't know.
we switch it from commercial to residential or
or it can be either.
If
I
it was
think
CB
GBD
2 or
2
3.
and 3 allow for either.
Yeah, no, I think
the
I don't, it's
problem-
unclear why it was GBD one in the first place.
Well, it
is-
was for a little retail shop, what do you mean? It was,
Right.
that's
It-
what it was.
That was the original.
It was
plan.
retail shops. There were multiple shops that it's
Right.
replacing that are now,
Right.
if we take it out, we know what the trend is. It's a small little retail shop and all residential, pretty much.
Correct.
And so if we change that zoning, we are losing the power of that commercial revenue.
Oh, but not if it
'Cause that's a
allows
very
for
lot.
mixed use.
But we ended
No,
up with a
I
little,
agree with
Oh,
that. That's why I
but-
was saying, don't we wanna see
we want
No, but-
commercial there.
But we, right now, there's no, we also know that we can get, this is a town that's looking for the affordable housing, and that if we rezone to mixed use, we can get it, but we have to have either the inclusionary or bring, we haven't had a dialogue, and this board, I think, this is a chance, we've
I think we
seen
need to
so
have
many
that.
ship sales since I've, before whatever, opportunities lost, because we haven't had the conversation early. But that would be pretty effective to
Bring the neighbors
the
in.
owners, well, the owners,
Owners.
the owners.
Have a
So
discussion.
maybe we should, before we do anything, we should schedule a meeting with the owners to come in, invite them.
It's up to the board. I don't know if you wanna just invite them in.
We just started
Some
asking.
people, I mean, or if you wanna have a meeting with the chair as a preliminary meeting or something, or,
I think the board
Just
always
bring
should
them on
be.
in. Give them the invite and that we wanna talk to them.
okay.
Why not?
And what do
Schedule.
we wanna talk about, like, what are
What
their
we would like to
plans?
see, now we may, what are their, but what would they like to see built? But I do think this opportunity to, I mean, we could end up with, well, what could it be? I mean, the last project was a CVS, so is that what we really want? I don't think so.
think-
They hit a snag legally, the CVS hit a snag legally, but that's definitely right now, something that could go in there, so.
They were
that's not
okay,
what we
people
want.
were okay with the CVS, they were not okay with the size of that CVS.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
the
if you live
parking
near
lot
there,
and-
They have
It might
parking
be
lots
more
there now.
useful to you to be able to walk to a CVS rather than a
Oh,
bunch of
I'm
new
fine
housing.
with, I want to make sure it's clear. I would actually assume mixed use, which means retail on the ground floor, and the old half-story thing, you're absolutely right, but go to 2.5 stories, and you can get quite a
could even do
few
mixed
small
use.
units on that site, and if we want to make it a friendly
You
40B,
could do a decent
we
mixed-use
could get
development.
some real traction on our housing production.
Or that could be our tiny house site. like our-
Cluster
That's the
style.
other thing, we could do a cluster zone on there
I'm
of
just-
small houses, that would be awesome.
They'll be
Exactly.
looking for their highest profit. so-
That'll give them tremendous profit.
Those are so popular right now.
No,
Tiny
I'm-
house
I'm-
subdivision.
Would you
Yes.
want to?
They look so cool.
Oh, I love them. Don't get me wrong. I'm just, we're trying to imagine, but
Hmm.
anyway.
No, but
I
that's
don't-
something else we could
um,
consider doing.
It'd be another, it would be, I don't know if it'd be an overlay, but
I think it'd be an
Well,
overlay,
I
it'd be
think we
small
wanna get
lots.
this- Don't we wanna get that zoning out of there, though? Because that zoning
The
is
GBD one
not-
seems very restrictive,
And doesn't,
not what the neighborhood wants,
Right.
more importantly.
exactly.
The micro-housing subdivision would be very powerful to do.
I'm okay with, I mean.
I mean,
yeah.
with all the things that we're seeing in phase one of the master plan, that's one of the things that a lot of residents are looking for, are the micro-houses.
But would we want those to be, how do we make sure that those are, well, first of all, there aren't a lot of opportunities, maybe back up here, for state certified affordable, and that's a big
Right.
site, so wouldn't.
Yeah, we have to put
this-
percentage of inclusionary
I
housing
read
on
an
there.
article, did we all read the article about affordable tiny houses?
I mean,
Oh.
it's fine, yeah.
No, I mean, there's a
No.
precedent for.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I've been always for the tiny houses.
Well,
Okay,
I'm
so,
gonna try to,
Schedule.
or I will invite any of the
I think
representatives
the
to
message
a
is
meeting.
not just please come to a meeting, it's like the planning board is discussing rezoning. We would like
I would
you.
like to hear your feedback of what you would
Exactly.
like to see with your site,
that-
your sites. There's more than
Alright.
one. We wanna do it as, we wanna reach out and do it as a team. Okay, so we'll hold on that one till we have the meeting, and, but that is on our to-dos. Okay, I think discussing the fine tuning the CBD zoning with the CBD review subcommittee,
I don't know if that's zoning, I think that's
It's-
more of the rules and regs,
I'm
right?
fine if we think we can address it there.
I think it's more operational and changing things within.
it's
the-
operational.
the-
What does
yeah.
this one mean?
Exactly.
The,
So
go
there,
through it.
basically, there have been, I don't know, I'm guessing about two communication breakdowns between the CBD review subcommittee and
Three
the
counting
planning,
Thompson Street as well?
yeah.
Okay.
I-
That's what I was thinking.
I wonder.
Oh, sorry.
I'm
Wait,
gonna,
maybe Heather needs an answer, sorry.
I'm gonna, so the Center Business District Design Review Subcommittee is a component, depending on if it's a historical or not, is a composition of 3-2, Design Review and Historical Commission.
Right.
The problem is that meeting, and the information we're getting out of it is not adequate. However, if we went back as, treated it more like a special permit, in terms of how they're running, they are giving feedback on special permits, both of them,
Yep.
independently of each other. The problem is when we pull them together, we're getting like a piece of information, and I think, I've been disappointed in the amount of information we're getting out of the subcommittee. So it might actually be easier, and it's through the zoning, because the zoning says it has to, is that the design review subcommittee is the planning board, the historical commission and the design review, that both of them, and it's not a meeting they have to have together, that we have, and it already says we have to weigh heavily on their feedback.
You know, though, it really does just set up this committee of 3 and 2, or 2 and 3.
That's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
eliminate
But the thing
that.
is- Yeah, but I think it's in the zoning, and one of the other concerns I have is so you've got 2 members of a 7-member board, it's just.
With all different expertise and
Right,
design.
it just shuts them out,
Yep.
because right now it hasn't, and even when they all get together and they're with the developer, it's like, it's 5 of the 7 with a real expertise.
Yeah, but this was written before we included now the language about that the special permit granting authority has to respond to the boards and commissions, right? Before it wasn't that way, and the
It was only,
design,
it was
they were
not that
kind
they
of.
have to respond, it was that only if there's a consensus amongst, yeah, if you disagree
If
with
you
it, if you
disagree.
disagree with them, you just have to state why.
But that's now in there, and because of that, the design review and the historical commission are now actually providing feedback to special permits and
Oh,
site plan.
that, it works.
And so
but-
they're doing it already, so
You're
this is
saying
now,
This is duplicative?
this
and
is
confusing?
duplicative, but at the same time, then they're not reviewing it as a committee themselves. They feel that this
Right.
is their
Oh, it's
But
not.
because
opportunity
this-
versus letting the whole committee speak.
Ah,
Because, I agree, that's
makes
the
sense.
problem.
And that's-
It's
yeah,
just, is
I'd
the
call that a
solution
problem.
just the rules? And when I'm reading what's in the zoning, I just think this paragraph.
Should just be, I think it should be
what-
eliminated.
I mean,
I do too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yes,
or it's-
yeah, drop it. Exactly.
get
So I think-
rid of
Oh,
that
totally there.
I'm all about getting rid of that. I think,
That's easy, I love that one.
well, yeah, I mean, the original plan was that, well, like what you were talking about, where we were the special permit granting authority,
Yeah.
and we would have the historical commission and the design review give us comments.
Exactly.
But that was written prior to them actually giving comments on special permits. Now they are
That's true, too.
actively, they've changed
That's
how they're
true.
managing it, and they are on all special permits, whether it's the Center Business District or it's
But
GB.
we still acknowledge that when we put that in the zoning, that all we were doing was creating this 3-2-2-3 thing. We knew that.
I guess I always thought that somehow I got this idea that the whole group would, each board, agency, would review, and that those people who attend the meeting
be the
would somehow would be
representatives.
representing, and that didn't happen. And
Right.
it's not written here
Well,
that they
if-
really are representing.
If
so-
the proposed change is to get rid of the CBDRS and just have the historical commission and design review, I'm 100%
That's what I would
for
like.
that.
Then we're all
That
there.
sounds
That works.
We've already
That
got
works.
ourselves ready for.
So
That's
the
one article.
Add it in.
We'll just
That's
make it
green.
Right.
Check it.
That little
Heather,
change
I look
before
what
going
you
to the
did it.
town
You're
meeting.
one
Right, so
of the
There you
it's
go.
dissolve the CBDRS.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
So-
change the wording.
Yeah.
The number 5, work with the select board on establishing a housing trust. I don't know if that's just a discussion. We don't know where that stands. We
That's a
have to-
goal, that's a goal for 2020 is what that is.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I
that's,
think this is a, I mean,
But
a
that's
more,
not related to
Yeah,
town
it's a-
meeting.
no, but, I mean, I think Maureen,
I think they're quite eager to get going. Now, you weren't at the meetings I've attended, which are not my meetings, I'm as a guest, but, I mean, not a guest, I'm invited, but they're totally public. But these, what we're learning is the town, of course, has the funds, right now, but can't, the select board, can't spend the money on a purchase.
they're not
um,
able to work quick enough. Not that
Right.
there's anything, it's the
And
fund,
that-
the
right,
mechanism.
So this
yeah.
woman who, I mean, we've seen several
This
different
sounds familiar,
experts, but
yes.
I can't remember the last one.
Susan Collins.
Susan
Okay.
Collins, right. As it came out, it seemed like it was pretty much the recommendation. And, I mean, we all said, well, that's what we want to do, to move that money into the trust. And then there's a mass general law that enables this. And many communities have used it, and
Yeah.
you set up this with certain designated
Yeah.
people who manage the trust, and that and it's pretty straightforward.
but that's
It
really the
is,
select
it
board
is.
doing
It
it.
is. I
So
agree.
let's just
And
add
And
it.
that's been longstanding legislation,
would
that's been
we
out there for a
be
long time.
involved?
I just support.
Because it is, we are involved with housing issues, and so it would.
So
and
since
we
we're
actually
on-
Typically,
Like, advise
when you
them on
see
what
the.
to buy
I would
and
think
to
we
do
would,
then?
Well,
I
not
think we
just
would
that.
advise the trust.
Typically, when you see how these are set up, they do include a planning board member or
Yeah.
some, whatever representative.
For timing purposes, it is not a part of our Springtown meeting goals, but it is gonna be put on our agenda with the select board.
It
And
might be, if
hopefully in
they
that
want.
meeting, we can make them take it, and Lisa will work on that
Exactly.
with Brian, and we can just, so let's move on, because we're focusing on the Springtown meetings. So that was your 5. I had 2 more to add to that. One was in, the consultant for the master plan noted that the signs bylaw needed to be moved into the zoning.
Yeah.
So it's in the general, yeah, it's in the
In
general.
the general, there is case law that it needs to be moved into the zoning. I don't know how easy that is, if it's a copy and paste and add it in.
Yeah,
But I
it's
think
such a
that would be a
good-
green if it's just that.
It would actually be 2 articles.
And
It's 2 articles, and you just take it to the town meeting, we'll be done.
I am more than happy as a planning board to sponsor that versus the design review, because they typically don't go. But just transfer that into.
Yeah, so it would, again, it would be 2 articles. One would be deleting it from the general bylaws, and then there would be a different article adding it to the zoning bylaw.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Right,
And the other one that we just talked about is the trees.
STM.
right.
Yes, that's one of them.
And maybe it's
I
a
don't- We don't know how that's
replacement.
we don't know what we're gonna do, but I think something related to trees on private property. I mean,
So-
To write
Well,
the
see-
whole thing, like some other.
Do you want to be the person who takes the lead and
Well-
comes up with an idea?
Sure.
Hey,
Okay.
I'm already chairman of the street tree committee,
I know
so,
you keep
know,
saying that, but do you wanna do it for the private properties, cause that's different?
That is very different, and it's, I don't know.
I'd
We
love
have
to
one
start.
example that we were
start it.
emailing about, I forget.
The one that we'd have, and the most of the ones that you find are clear-cutting ones, of a,
Maybe
like,
that's where to start, baby steps.
that's not the problem here. I mean,
Well-
meaning
No,
most of the
I
clear.
thought the one that we looked at, I mean, it was a long time ago, but I thought there was one that was nearby, and it was talking about replacing mature trees on your property. It wasn't,
Was it replacing if they just die, or is it replacing due to construction?
I think having to do with some type of an
It
application
had
of
to
some
do
kind.
with remove,
No.
I'll look in my email and
I
see
thi- I think
which
the-
one
Well, why
was
don't,
the example,
We-
but yes, I
We'll look at a
confirm-
couple. I think the one big decision to determine is whether or not you would want to make these basically triggered by a special permit, triggered by site plan review, or
I think
just
that's what
by right.
triggers it. Just like what we had today, right? We had a special permit, they're taking out trees, we need to,
So it
set a, if they're taking out trees due first to a special permit, they need to
These are the
replace,
rules.
these are the rules of what you
Well,
need to
so-
do. Or if you're clear cutting your lot to build for a special
Clear
permit,
cutting, I think.
this
would
is
be
what you have to
easier
do.
I'm just thinking baby steps, or I'm thinking either baby steps, like do clear cutting, start there, or if it's going to be the bigger one, move that as a topic, which we could bring up tomorrow night. Maybe, I guess, our master plan, to some degree, has already been what you put in, you get out, and I don't think we've really put in a lot that addresses questions, and maybe we want to steer Jen also to that question about trees, to build some community input
Right.
before we get there, because I
You
would
mean,
like to get there.
Have it documented that people value.
Yeah, just as a process.
Tree canopy?
Well,
Yeah.
can't we,
Yeah.
couldn't we do it?
I think
Site
language-
plan
there's
and
some language in there
design
somewhere.
review.
Well, I think it makes sense. At the very least, it makes sense for special permit criteria, right? One of those criteria
is,
definitely.
specifically says to limit the number of mature trees, that are being, but all it says,
That's what I'm trying
it
to
says
find. What
limit.
is the
You don't
number?
ever talk about
What is the
replacing.
number?
942, special
Okay.
permit
So
criteria.
would you see
Okay,
that
I
as
am
site plan
offering-
review or?
I would focus on special permit criteria, which
Yeah.
is nine
special
four two.
permit, okay.
And that is, talking about baby steps, that would be a baby step, saying that
Right.
if you're in front of the zoning board for special permit,
You're probably building.
instead of saying that you instead of saying it'd be nice
Right.
if you saved some mature trees, it's
Right.
every single
Makes it-
mature tree that above 6 inches that
Above, yeah.
you have to replace somewhere on the property or somewhere in town or on the street, like,
Yeah, it
there has
should
to do.
include-
When
Just
I
start with-
know, and I know, we've already got some language like that already.
For street trees.
Yeah, for
But we're
street- for
talking
street
about
trees.
private,
Yes.
because,
right.
so what the language is it's impacts on natural environment, including but not limited to changes in topography, installation of retaining walls, or the removal of mature trees. So the impacts, that's one of the special permits, so they could actually deny if they take a tree out. What I think might be,
Explicit.
they could,
wanna
they
be
could say,
explicit.
you are impacting your
Yeah, I
mature
like to
trees,
look
we're
for
denying you.
examples Where people are really explicit about the size, the number, the.
Yes, so it's a
Some of the ones I
guideline.
saw, you then have to, you could also just put it into a street fund, a tree
Yeah.
fund.
Yeah,
But so we-
that's
that
not
could
that's
be-
not a bad thing either.
it's not a bad
Right.
thing either,
Yeah.
right?
We are not
Well, we-
funding street trees the way we could.
But-
No, and people
No,
request.
we aren't, but we should be.
People
Right.
request street trees, either
Do
something,
it.
something dies, meaning,
Well, I
you know,
think Heather Hannon's generously offered to.
Yes,
get
she
it
is-
done.
I will find some examples and
To
put something together to show you guys.
To clarify, though, we don't actually have to do it in the zoning, because we have this, what that means could be done in the rules and regs of the ZBA and the planning board.
It's like having design guidelines also.
It's design guidelines for the
Exactly.
ZBA of what that means.
Writ large.
yeah, ZBA would have to do that.
Yeah, well, we have to do it too for the SBG,
We could do, yeah, for the CBD,
so for the CBD as well, but,
there's
Or
not,
can you just reference a tree ordinance that's like a separate document?
well, that's what we're
Yeah,
saying,
one
but
could.
you could do it in your rules and regs of,
I think it makes
It's
more
not-
sense to do it in the zoning.
I do too,
Yeah.
because otherwise it
Exactly.
goes off to
If
the
I had to choose
zoning
between
board where they don't
which
have any rules.
Which
but-
one, I would
Yeah.
do it as like I said, at the bare minimum, it would be a special permit criteria. One above that would be, it would be special permit and a stronger language in site plan review. And then another one would be some type of so not related to anything special permit, site plan review, or by right, it would be based upon number of trees, like if you were removing 10+ trees or 20+ trees, this would be a clear cutting bylaw, so,
Right.
so, I mean,
well,
that's
isn't
where,
it,
yeah.
so so you're looking at a clear cutting bylaw, or you're looking at, say, a special permit. But I'm just thinking of, if we went to Springtown meeting, the easiest way would be to take the removal of mature trees, impacts
Beef that up-
on,
beef that
and
up a lot.
beef it up, and
Yeah.
then still keep in the special permit.
Yep,
So it's there.
I think we could get a lot done without
I
having
mean, you
a
actually
whole.
could do like 3 lines, and you
with-
could get a lot of
yeah,
power out of those 3
without-
lines.
No,
Without
I
a
agree.
separate-
I think it's totally possible, it's,
Okay.
I mean, the thought with doing something separate is that you have like a comprehensive vision about what you care about for trees, and you have all the rules in one place. versus buried?
Well, I think it's more of it's whether or not it's related to a special permit or whether it's related to a special permit. It doesn't matter if it's buried or not. If it's related to a special permit,
Permit,
the ZBA
there
has
it
to
is.
look at that
Look at it,
criteria.
yeah.
That's right.
So there's two things.
Or if you're doing a by right stuff, then yeah, I mean, then
But what about like that lot that I showed you? I don't think there's any permits for that site. They just cut
Clear
the
cut.
trees.
So there's two things I think we're looking at. One is a clear cutting bylaw.
Exactly, and
And
there are,
then
and there
there
are,
is a
there are
special
already
permit.
penalties already in the bylaw with respect to clear cutting.
That's what happens
Clear
at that
cutting?
site.
There is?
Yes,
Where?
there
All
are.
those
Wait,
trees are
on
gone.
private?
Nobody does anything.
Where, Betsy?
Not on private.
No.
Well, anything that's related to street trees.
Yeah.
It
so-
doesn't,
We're not talking
Betsy, no.
Um,
No,
yeah.
but I'm telling you, if you start, I mean.
Who's
I-
gonna
It's
start
kind
cutting down
No,
the street trees?
no.
that's work.
Okay, so,
Well,
so
they're
Heather and
not,
Brian,
but they weren't controlled until within like the past 5 to 10 years, so. I'm
you're
just
gonna
saying.
look at the special permit and ways to pull this out as its own line item and some clear, more definitive,
Yeah.
what we would
And
like to
I'm
see
also,
happen
for myself, looking at examples where it's a separate document.
for clear cutting, right? Yeah, so those are two things, because those are two different actions we could take at Springtown meeting. One is
Yeah,
for
no, they're
site plan,
definitely two
and
separate
then clear cutting is
things.
a different issue
Yeah,
and how to deal with
They're
that.
very different.
Okay, and it'd be interesting to hear what engineering also has to say about.
I guarantee there are gonna be like, just keep as much open space as possible, as least amount of impervious surface as you can
Okay.
make it.
Wonder why.
Okay, so those
Spend a lot
are
of
Good
money.
people and.
We're about
We
to spend a
are-
lot of money on.
we are
this
done
for a
with-
stormwater permit.
our list. Does anyone have any other additional items besides the list of items that Maureen and I added to?
Just don't forget that we had the definition of floor area
He
common
has it
road.
at-
It's on mine.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have, the
Start
Well,
anyway.
can we just look at briefly my 4 little extras?
extras are to-dos, and we need Deb to do it, because we need him to schedule it, because he.
Oh, schedule, yeah, but at least we can just get them out, or just read them out loud.
Well, we did the procedures for hearings.
We're gonna be working on
You're
that,
working on that.
exactly.
Review and revise subdivision filing fees.
I'm going through that right now with the clerk.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, and I think also the town manager is reviewing all fees.
We're all, it's everybody.
It's everyone.
Yeah.
Hallelujah, okay,
Um,
that's good.
We, design review
That's kind
consultant
of
is on
tabled-
hold
That's kind
right
of
now.
tabled for the moment.
The unfinished subdivisions.
We're gonna get a report,
That's
like
ongoing,
written, like.
I can give you a list of outstanding projects,
This
definitely.
board deserves,
perfect.
because of I know what I have, which is like from handed out probably 5 years ago. This board,
Sadly, it hasn't changed.
I believe you, but at least we should all.
But we
have
should, I know, but we should all focus
15
on that,
minutes
get them
just
done.
to see it
Yeah.
and get it out there in the public eye. Just remind people what is going
No,
on.
I have all the files pulled, so.
Perfect.
All right, I'm moving on because we wanna
I'm-
stay on schedule.
Yep.
So that's everything. The last, action items that we have outstanding is the letter regarding 648, 654 Main Street. There's a draft in place. I had some edits.
This was the letter you just said, this was the withdrawal, so they withdrew, technically, there's no decision, quote, by the board that needs to be filed, quote.
Right, no,
It's
they
a very
withdrew.
weird thing, but, we
no.
did accept a withdrawal, with prejudice. We wrote a draft, sent it out, it has not been,
Drop to who?
I thought it's possible, or is it just, was it just to you?
I never saw it.
I never.
No,
saw
no
it,
one has
so I-
seen it. I thought it was in their packets, though.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
You asked Liz to put it in the packet? He asked Liz to put it in the packet.
Whoops.
Okay, so it didn't make your packet.
Picked up that ball,
Haven't
didn't
seen it, sorry.
Well, no, I was there when he asked
Yeah.
to get in the packet, so, but at the same time, there are 3 other things you requested we put in the packet, so we'll give her a break. And we can't resend it out, and I'll make edits and review it, that's,
No,
again,
but
so
we
the
can
meeting
send it, we
will.
can send it out and just, you just can't send edits, but we can certainly send
Right.
out.
Yes,
Don't- Don't say anything, right? I mean,
Exactly.
meaning that as long as you're not commenting on it or saying anything, I mean, it's a list of what was voted on it's perfectly fine for me to send out to the
That's
group.
right.
well, so this is what I was thinking, so, I think Dieb's looked at it, I have now looked at it, and we originally, as a board, just said, Dieb write it, and we will accept it. I think it needs to be more beefy, with more design language.
Right, okay,
Because I'd like to see if you can take a stab at it to beef it up in architectural language. Because one of the,
By a puss.
well, the reason why I'm asking this is because people are gonna be looking at this as a leader for the Center Business District of why it was, why it didn't meet the needs. And it really is all design-based. And,
It's referencing the design guidelines.
yes,
is what-
it's really
that's
design
all-
guidelines.
that's
And
all
how
it
did
is.
it not
says
meet that?
didn't
Why
meet
did it
the-
not?
This design guideline because.
And so, Diab you wrote the draft? Who wrote the draft?
Both.
It just is, it's very like,
Did you provide feedback already?
the beneficial impacts of the project as proposed do not outweigh the negative effects of the loss of the historic resource. Meh. Right, so, one of the things we had talked about is the architecture design uses multiple styles. It should be more cohesive. I mean, it's just very, I don't know if it's worth beefing it up in any way, but it's an opportunity, and so I just need someone else to look at it.
But I was just.
I looked
asking,
at
did you
it.
Put some of your feedback.
I
in
did
there
not put
already?
any of the
Oh.
architecture language in it. So,
So
did
it's
we have time to
also-
bring it back?
Bring it back. What do you?
Can I give this to Heather to look at and bring it back? When do we have to get it out by?
That's this thing. There's no,
Just
there's
for
no
fun.
technical
Right,
filing.
They've withdrawn.
Yeah,
so-
they would, it's as if,
Yeah.
legally,
Project-
legally, it's as if it never happened.
Never,
Right.
never existed.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I give
This
you
is
my
more PR
edits.
This is
You
more
wanna put it in
PR,
writing.
yeah.
If I give you my edits and you send it to the rest of the board, they give you their edits, you come back and come in with everything in our next
I
meeting.
can, no.
You can't take their edits and then we
I
bring
can't,
it.
I can't, cause then I'm coming, so yeah, I don't think that is allowed. I think that was what.
No, because we're coming to the table to discuss it. Right?
And it would be a new document.
It's a new
You would
document.
show us all something that we haven't all seen before.
It's not being approved,
Okay,
right?
I mean,
My only concern is that at some point, it's gone from Diab to Heather, and that's sequential, and
No, she's
that's.
saying send it to the whole group.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, send it to the whole group, everyone gives
Well,
their
then we
feedback.
just review it and
Review
discuss it
it.
in
We
the
could
meeting.
review it and
Yeah, I
discuss
don't-
it then.
yeah,
you know, one of
that's
our
easy,
meetings.
is that you come to the meeting,
Right,
you can send
right.
me your
Let
comments
me
and then
say
we
this
talk about it. and-
collectively, I mean, to
And
everybody
collectively,
present,
yeah.
that we don't have to agree on every point. And I've seen,
Right.
and I have some from years ago, because I thought we were well done, Design Review Board, a committee where they actually said several of the members felt X and several members felt Y. So I guess I had the impression, Dieb's not here, but maybe I'll just say to the rest of you, that he was wanting some agreement on all these different points. We don't need to reach that agreement. So it could even say there were board members who felt that, and I would like that to be a part of the
I mean, I think we all
document.
agreed on all of it except for that if the project was changed a certain way, that the beneficial impacts
Well,
could
that's pretty
outweigh the
huge.
historical.
Yeah,
That's
'cause
the
some of
only
us
thing I
will-
think that you're referring to.
I am
think
referring to
everything
that.
else.
I don't know also, I mean, just, again, here we are now having that discussion without, but there's nothing illegal about discussing this.
No, this is related to an action item.
I think that's the
But I
reason that
do
one is
think-
very short and concise.
So, but I do want, I at least would like to see that there was more than a little concern by some of these, of us here, that we see every effort to preserve that house, which is, in the zoning, so I'd like to see that acknowledged. And it certainly came out in the meeting when you weren't here, so it was
Yep, I wasn't here.
agreed that we felt that way. So that's one thing. And the other was, I know that you're perhaps more open to more height than some of us. And again, I don't think we all have to agree, nor do we, and maybe I really could be persuaded I could see something that actually I would say, yeah, Heather, you were right, but I think generally that if I were going forward, I would just say that height was special permit, and that, in my mind, I would not expect the same height throughout the entire subzone or subdistrict, whatever that thing's called. So, and again, I don't think we have to beat this to death, and I don't think we have to all agree. I just think we can, if we're sending a letter like this, and I think there's virtue to sending that letter, that we can take the approach that these are concerns of some of the members of the board. Leave it there.
So really list everything instead of just what we agree on.
Yeah.
Appropriate.
Okay,
Okay.
so then people have to do it. So we're gonna do it at the table at the next
Right.
meeting?
I'll still
I
send out,
hope
I'll send out.
We can all
Another draft.
agree that we would like to just
But since
respect
we
each
all
other's
have an idea
opinions,
of what we're
go
talking
in
about.
and know that we're not at the point now without a project, that we can just say, these are a range of concerns.
And with your comment about the height,
Right, and again, you might just, someday I might see it and say, yeah.
well, no, are you saying that nowhere in that zone,
No, I didn't, no, that's the
or
point.
that site
In
can't
that
at all take it?
subzone, right now, I would strongly discourage that height on that site. That would be my
On
opinion.
that site?
My opinion about the height had more to do with the design.
Yeah.
I thought, well, if it's an amazing design and it had
Well,
more
I'm saying
like
that too,
setbacks and it was very.
but I'm
maybe that-
guessing, I agree, that's what I was saying, maybe Heather could prove that, I can agree, end up, but I'm
I'll get my pencil
imagining-
out.
Yeah, right, but
I
I'm
do think
imagining
you'd see it
what's.
from a lot of places in town, like when I run around and
There's,
I look sometimes
That's-
like, I think
that
you could
was
see it from
really
here, I
tall.
think you could see it from here.
Yeah, it
and
was very.
yeah, but there's a lot of buildings you can see,
Yeah.
like there are a lot of buildings you can see everywhere,
So-
but the design of those buildings
Well,
are
that's where
not.
I'm going. So when the reality is, and there's kind of this, whatever, it's possible concept, and there's reality of what's coming in, I think if we're signaling, which that is, it's a signal to the builders in town, or who are working, they're not in town actually, coming out from out of town into this town. If we're sending signals, I would say that for what we're likely to get, back to Brian's point actually about residential neighborhoods, just pulling the height down and on that site, it's probably going to be more acceptable or general, I mean, the likelihood is, so that's.
Unfortunately, I have to go.
Nope, I think
Just
we're
got a
good.
text.
Are you okay?
Yeah, no, everything's totally fine. She just got called in.
Oh, emergency doggy. Okay, so you make those edits, and then they'll get dispersed, and then we'll bring it back to the
Then
agenda.
we'll see you tomorrow.
All right, and
Have a good
that is
night.
everything. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
We did, can you believe it, 7:30, and it was a very productive meeting. How'd that happen?
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
You're
Amazing to true.
Don't gloat.
Don't gloat. What do you mean, don't gloat?
If you should.
I did
If I were
it.
you, I'd gloat.
Before you guys leave, don't take your sheets that I just printed off for you that have your initials on them. I have yours.
You have all of them, don't you?
Yes, if you did, then I have it.
Oh, grab it.
And you've got mine.
Yeah, I have yours.